Taking notes off.
Alice, sorry, Steven hit the pause button, but we caught it, and Janelle has notes to lead us up until 6:25.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sweating.
We'll cover it. Hmm.
But Alice, we will provide you with a list of abutters, for your minutes or, no, that's just for you to know.
Yes. just for the
But,
requirement.
what would Alice need?
I've sent her what I just went over that
Okay.
checklist.
Okay,
Yeah.
stay tuned, Alice.
The typical driveway, what do you have the grade? I know it ranges from,
We'll look at the one to the back, 'cause that's the. Let's see. There's the driveway. Going to the back. Our steepest spot, we do hit 18% over short stretch, the 13, 15, and then it flattens out once we get to the back of 2-3% through this whole back area.
So is your goal to lower it to less than 15 and the 18? You're gonna do a cut?
We could cut through.
Cause I'm just following the design standards of our subdivision regulations. And under driveways, each lot shall be served by a driveway with a max slope of 15%. And no CO shall be granted until the
Okay.
requirement is met.
Yeah, it's only a short stretch, we can easily
Okay,
make that up.
and then, when the grade is proposed exceeds 10%, the commission will require that a performance bond be posted to ensure construction of a driveway in compliance. That would be an issue.
Then, no, these
If
lots
we
are gonna be
require
sold, these lots are gonna be sold off individually, so we're not developing like we would,
Yeah.
30 lot, road subdivisions.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally get
These are
that.
gonna all come back with separate site plans for approval.
So as
at
long
those
as
times.
the applicant is aware that
Yeah,
this
performance
commission
bond.
could have asked for a performance.
Yeah.
bond. That's all I had for driveways. Now, just so the commission is aware, we can, or we may, when necessary, require specific driveway location, grade, width, surface, or other design requirements in order to provide for reasonable access for emergency and other services. So just be aware of that. That's what the applicant is.
Well, I think that's part of the 15% grade is part of the emergency vehicle thing
Right,
anyway,
it
so
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So,
Your zoning regulations and your subdivision regulations are different in the driveway.
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And when that's the case, you go to the stricter of the
Stricter,
two.
yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
we're going to these.
Yep.
Maybe we'll fix that in there.
We're doing some rewrites in Cornwall.
So let's driveway. Janelle, did you have more points you want to go over?
no, I leave it to the commission.
Yay,
It's got lots of tabs there.
I do, but don't, it's all
Not
good.
worried.
And I think this is, we don't do many subdivisions
No.
in Fallsville in a while. And we actually have our own little subdivision regulation packet, which is pretty, well put together, but it is 21 years old. So, part of the design standards, make best use of natural terrain.
Mhm.
From what I can tell with the driveway, proposed driveway, you're trying to follow
Yeah.
that, so, to me, I
Yeah, that's
commend.
why we
I
did the
commend that
three,
effort.
trying to do the 3 driveways,
Yeah.
trying to keep it all on one.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
But, I think that, and we'll cover this more, to help also minimize flood damage,
Mhm.
which is, it just keeps coming back and it's
Right.
gonna keep coming back on that just by the nature of
Yeah.
the contours of.
Yep.
So I just wanted to make that.
Yep, I've got some stuff on here that we can go over if you
Yeah.
wanna
Yep.
touch them now, or do you wanna wait till?
Let me go through and I
Yeah.
think you might answer them as I hit point by
Sounds good.
point, because in essence, it's gonna be our job to go through and make sure that we check every one of these boxes,
Yep.
so. for the preservation and enhancement of community resources is designed. And one of them is listed under 1A, this section 4.04, protection of community resources, is the protection of agricultural lands. So historically, I believe that this land has been in agricultural use.
Mhm.
So what is the plan to preserve that?
Well, for
Or
one,
is
you
there
know,
a
these,
plan
for
to
one,
preserve it?
these are such big lots that likelihood somebody would still probably use a lot of that land, you know, for hay or something like that. There's no particular plan, nothing saying that the owners would have to do that, but, you know, they are 30, you know, a 35 and a 27 acre parcel up here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and this is where, and this is maybe something that we have to discuss further after, and maybe
Yeah.
this isn't for you to answer.
No.
But part of it is a provision shall be made for, you know, and it's stone walls, ridge lines, ridge tops, prominent hillsides, scenic views, obviously,
Right.
right? There's nothing here proposed. But it does specifically list out agricultural lands, so that's something that I think that we need to put a check mark next to figure out what the intent was of that, so. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
from you that there wasn't already, yeah, we have a
You know,
X number Y, but it's hard to have that, I guess, if the law hasn't sold.
exactly.
But it may,
Yeah.
maybe something. So conservation development was an option that you chose not to.
Yeah.
Go down through for, because there's some positives to do it that way and then some negatives, so, okay. Just want to make sure you were aware that
Yep.
that was an option.
Yep.
Lot layout is pretty extensive. You absolutely meet the minimum size. So the shape, size, location, topography, character, and arrangement of a lot shall be such that there will be no foreseeable difficulties for reasons of topography or other conditions in item C is providing driveway access to buildings on such lot.
Mhm.
I just kind of circling back on that, I think
Yep.
I'm only speaking for myself, the concern would be the grades
Right.
and the, during construction and I guess final material. Is that covered in here of what you're proposing for roadway for erosion control? Once constructed,
Frozen gravel right now.
okay,
For the
so
driveways,
will
yeah.
there be,
And we're silt fences along the whole way during construction.
that's during construction,
During
but
construction.
post-construction, because even on a 15% grade?
Well, I'm also proposing, rain gardens off the sides to you to collect the swales, to collect into rain gardens. To try
Okay,
to
so I
eliminate-
did see the rain gardens and I apologize, I just didn't see how they tied into the drainage of the driveway, is that on
Yeah.
one of these maps?
Well, the swales got running along, you can't see it very easily here, but the swales running along that kind of dump into that end of those rain gardens
On that steep slope?
on the steeper slope, yeah.
Okay. Would it be possible, to delineate those on a map?
Yeah,
That's a request that I would ask for, just because if we're accessed with the responsibility of providing to deal with that, I think that we should have to show it that we can see it. And
Yeah, they're
we'll
on there,
We'll
just
get
you'd
into
have
that a
to
little
look.
bit more, I
Good.
think, when I get into further drainage,
Yeah.
but that's one of the questions.
What's the grade now?
the grade through here.
Yeah.
Is, like 15% to this area, yeah.
So we had one Ruth earlier that showed the
Yeah.
grade. So just one small section that's 18.
Yeah, so that, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets flat once we get up top, it's just that short stretch where we have to kind of come up. The steeper
And when you
grade.
say short, approximation?
Of the 18%, it was about 50 feet,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
From this point to where it flattens out over in here,
See, here's the end of 15%, so
so this is a road, I'm assuming?
that's the
Yeah.
road, yeah. So we're at 13% for the first 500 feet.
Okay,
We got a little jump up, the 18 that I can get rid of to just before 600 feet. And then to 800 feet, we're at 15
so we're dealing with 800 feet of
of
a
somewhat,
fairly
yeah,
steep,
fairly steep, yep.
runoff.
And then we
so-
get to
Overall, the
4%.
driveway's like 2,800 feet in length. It's as
Uh,
longest.
2,580 feet.
So when, can you show me on that slope where you think you're gonna catch with the rain garden?
Yeah.
Is there a
Yep.
rain garden down low here?
Yep, I've got a couple. So I've got one at 4, got one right in here.
Mhm.
I've also got one at 650. So right in here.
Mhm.
So that should catch, we're starting to flatten
Everything
out
that-
here,
yeah.
so that should catch that first steep. And we got a second one. And then I've got one down near the bottom.
Excellent. And, I failed Keith, and it's possible, because I think I didn't print out or catch all the emails. We kind of had a bunch. Do you have what your rain garden consists of?
I
The
do not
depth,
have a
the
detail.
material, you know, cause the loam,
Yeah,
the loam sand and
I-
the X number of sand for,
did not include a detail.
cause I think it would be good to know, and further on, kind of on the road or on the driveway layout, you know, what could we expect that rain garden to hold quantity wise? And I don't know that may not be
And-
appropriate to ask
And I'm
that
thinking one
question.
of the things too, that's hard about this one is that these are 4 lots that are gonna be sold off individually and
Mhm.
developed individually.
That was
so-
one common
With
driveway.
one
for
common
3 of
driveway,
them.
right? So a lot of it is gonna have to come back when final design for where these houses are gonna be placed and everything else. A lot of things are gonna have to be resized at that point as well.
But most of that initial driveway would be for all 3 lots, right?
Just 2.
Okay,
The first one cuts off,
it cuts off real quick.
yeah,
Okay.
20 feet in.
Oh, wow.
There,
Oh,
it's
wow.
just coming in the mouth, basically. They're almost like 2 separate driveways. As soon as it
Now,
comes in right here.
yeah.
So it's basically a car
Okay,
width.
so really it's dealing with those 2 other.
It's really just 2 sharing. They're technically 3, but it's for all intents and purposes
And the
2.
third lot, or lot number 2, I think you have
Mm-hmm.
it, is protected from that runoff of the driveway. It's going the other way, away from the house, the rain gardens.
Yes. Yeah, and I've actually shown several rain gardens on, because we have a kind of snaking up there
Okay.
to catch the several rain gardens in between the.
Can I ask a question around that? If you're gonna basically do these driveways later when the lots get sold,
Right.
is there any idea of putting a driveway in to sell the lots?
No.
No, okay, I just wanted to be sure there was nothing that we needed to stipulate before a lot was sold,
So,
because I'm kind
Yeah.
of concerned.
Yeah.
Lots there, according to your regs, that when a lot is sold, that individual has to resubmit a plan.
Exactly.
It's acceptable to P and Z.
No, totally, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that you weren't putting something in
Yeah,
to bring
Not
people
like-
on to the.
not like a more bigger subdivision where we might put the road in first and then,
right, that's
then
more of the
develop the lot.
roadway, not the driveway.
yeah, this is kind of a different scenario than a lot of than what even your regulations seem to be written for.
Yeah, it is. for
Matt, do you
sure.
want a seat at the table? Come
Um,
on in.
Matt Mackey's in the house, Alice, on time, looking good.
Not on time.
You're fine,
So,
you're
So,
fine.
yeah,
So
so
get
this
it
is
back
kind
to
of a
the-
different situation.
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we didn't need to put some early stipulation on something if something was going on. Thank you.
So getting back to the rain garden, I would ask for what it's constructed and what's its capacity.
Yeah,
And then are you daylighting the downside? Because it's my understanding, and I haven't seen the soils report, and that might be coming up in
Yeah.
questions. But if the soil is poor, in essence, a rain garden slows, so does that, anybody know what rain gardens do?
Yeah, so I have a question around the concept that you're proposing to the applicant. What if this were to change? Like, what if he proposes a great spec, he's an engineer, and then in the event that these lots are sold, he is not the person performing the work? This is a subdivision plan showing the configuration of the lots. How would you as a commission tackle that? I just,
cause
Yeah,
every one of these
'cause-
lots is gonna have to come back and you're
and
gonna have to
and
prove
they,
every aspect.
they may
of it,
have an
yeah.
engineer that's not Keith, and we all see engineers with their differing opinions.
Yeah.
Might come in with a different engineering schema
Mhm.
for the lot, and we do see, as we're seeing with some subdivisions like Aspen Hill, hasn't been touched a while, people are coming back and re-subdividing. The characteristics of the development has changed, so the square footage of the house, the impervious coverage, the roof runoff is changing the needs for stormwater management on that individual lot based upon the individual house that's being proposed. So this might, although be a very educational exercise, might not actually be practical for the purposes of what we are doing at this present moment, which is looking at the subdivision as a whole for actioning.
I agree with that. I guess I would take off from that. How would we, if on first look of a subdivision to divide this property, if I'm not convinced the rain gardens can stop the runoff. They may, but I don't know enough about that yet. So if we subdivide it and somebody buys that property and the engineer comes back, but then at that point it doesn't meet. So I don't know, Janelle.
Then we wouldn't issue the
So that's on the
authorization.
buyer.
Yeah,
We-
that's on the budget.
It'd be on whoever is developing
Not
the
trying to be
lot.
Difficult about it, but.
No,
you
no.
Folks have the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We do.
If you get a plan for any one of those 4 lots, it's not satisfactory, and I mean, also,
Yeah, but otherwise we have to subdivide it, so we do have this to go by.
Right.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand why maybe my question was a little too into detail, you know?
there,
So
I
we'll-
mean, we all know Baby Hill's got to run.
Yeah.
it's
Well, and
always-
that's my issue, and that's where I was heading is, I understand rain gardens, I've installed a lot of them at commercial locations that I
Yeah.
operate, so I'm familiar with them. But on those, I have to daylight it, or I had to daylight it.
Yeah.
So my question, but I also had good soils underneath the rain garden.
Yeah.
This doesn't have good soils under the rain garden.
Right.
So I think the purpose of the rain garden is to slow,
Yeah. And let infiltrate
retain,
and let infiltrate.
but I guess I was heading towards what's the next step?
Yeah, a lot of this area here, you know,
But I do appreciate Janelle's comment, so if I'm getting too deep, that's totally understandable.
yeah, a lot of this area here, we're also dealing with wooded area that we wouldn't be looking to, you know, disturb that much either.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, that's gonna lead to better infiltration through these areas. The area where we're dealing with the steepest driveway is also the most wooded, which is gonna have better infiltration than, you know, an open field has a higher runoff capacity. Once we get out into the open field with this driveway, it's all on a much flatter surface grade all the way up to this house, even though we're quite a bit uphill here, because we're taking this meandering path. We're not dealing with the runoff in the same
Yeah.
way as we are through this stretch.
Okay,
And this stretch is all, like I said, all wooded through, all the way from the corner. You get a little stretch of the field right here, but then you're,
so
Into the west.
I'll rescind my construction of the rain garden, but I guess I would ask that, and I trust you, and I know I know you do a great job, but you're confident that a rain garden could deal,
Yes.
is the best solution
I think
for
the best,
that driveway
the best
runoff.
solution for this runoff in this
Okay.
area,
In the meantime, I do think the commission can revisit 5.10 storm drainage. And look at the fact that we are only reviewing storm drainage for anything bigger than a single family home. So we probably want to beef up our regulations to address concerns. Because if this year has been any example, stormwater management is just
I think every
of
town is
ever
dealing with
growing
that
more
right now.
important.
Cornwall.
So to make sure that we
Exactly.
have the stormwater management techniques and practices in place and.
On our list for Cornwall.
Yeah.
And I would actually propose to the commission, you probably have a better chance at getting adequate stormwater runoff prevention on BB Hill with 4 lots as opposed to 1.
Mhm.
Because you just have 4 chances to really address a real problem.
Yeah, unless I although that once you're that successful. No, duly noted. So Keith, next we move on to
Yeah.
4.07 open space reservations.
Yeah.
Again, the caveat that I understand this is probably I don't know, I didn't write this in 2003. But every subdivision under number 1 shall provide for reservation of open space land in order to do. My question is, obviously the lot
I
size.
believe there's a fee in lieu of.
Yeah,
Well,
so would that be,
it would be requesting,
you would request the lien, okay, that answers all that. So is the commission up to date on what that is? So there's, every subdivision requires a open space reservation where, and all it could be was a delineation on the map, but I didn't see one, so I didn't know if I missed a map.
Yeah.
But your plan was to, so they have the option of going through all these steps for the open space, or they can, in essence, pay money. Okay. Apologize, I kept up to my little pink note.
Take your time.
It's not road layout, back to the driveway. We already did the driveway, I had those two questions. So we're on to drainage. Storm drainage, it's a pretty lengthy section with a lot of standards. I just want to make sure commissioners are aware what and why it's applicable in this case,
Right.
and we all know that. Yeah. But, design of the drainage facilities. So I know you in your narrative and you're showing the map, in your experience, you know, I don't have much of people coming for subdivision
Yeah.
to this commission. But, you know, did you look at this and go through item C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, cause it's like, I'm trying to find it, I apologize. You know, how do we as a commission put a check mark next to that, potential future uses based upon maximum ultimate development? You know, like, it's tough on you, I understand it as the applicant.
Yeah.
But it's also tough because we have to follow this.
Yeah,
So I don't know if any commissioners have questions on any of these, cause all drainage design formulas, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
one of
we,
the things
I
I
think we
think
have
is
the
just-
right of a town engineer typically would look
Right.
at your work.
right.
Obviously, we don't have that, we could impose that.
And I think one of the things that this is different than than I believe that your regulations were written for. You know, the regulation, when I was reading through a lot of those, there are type of things that we would do for, you know, if we had a road layout and, you know, drainage pipes and catch basins and everything else in that situation, you know, these lots being these big estate lots
Yeah.
don't really.
No, understood, completely understand,
Lean
and
themselves in that
appreciate that
direction.
statement. However, you know, I think the biggest and, you know, that's the hardest thing to deal with,
Right.
you're well
Yeah.
aware of
Yep.
this, everybody knows that, you're a hilltop. But, you know, not cause flooding of a budding property from
Yeah.
the headwater and backwater produced by
Right. And one of the
structures.
things we're trying to do actually is help eliminate some of that with this proposal. These swales right here. Those were soil conservation swales that were put in as part of the farming practices back in the day. And we heard at the public hearing we had with ZBA, some concerns from the neighbors. These swales are dumping off the end because they do slope down slightly
Mhm.
and dumping off the end and causing issues. So I'm proposing that we kind of cap those, have them some retention in them to help slow down. It would still be flow out of, you know, it's a hillside, but, you know, I believe that what we're proposing will actually help versus if this were to stay an open field as it is, because there's nothing making that would make them have to do anything about those right now.
So you're putting in a retention pond?
We're using the swale, using the existing
Retention swale
swale,
would- the water would pond in it.
They would pond it,
Yeah.
By
okay,
capping. it.
capping the
Yeah.
end and, you know,
Yeah.
and releasing it at a slower rate
uh-huh,
than right now it's catching and
right,
all just diverting and shooting off the end.
yep,
By capping it, we're kind of gonna allow it to slowly,
So
you know,
it
more
would
filtration.
function as like an energy dissipator.
and just, and infiltration swale, like a grass line, you know, infiltration swale. You know, we can put rain garden type soils in the bottom of those to help promote infiltration versus it all just acting as a chute to shoot the
right,
water off on the neighborhood property, which is what it's doing now. We only have 2 of them on ours. There are actually many more, just they're not on our property and we can't do anything about stuff that's on our
Right.
property, so.
And that's a very important note.
And some of the biggest swales that are coming off these are caused by ones that are not on our property.
Mhm.
I was looking at the overall map of this, and as you look down this way, you actually have a couple big swales forming
Okay,
that are on other
Mhm.
drains that are off our property.
and to be sure there's no piping.
No piping.
Excellent.
We know who owns that adjacent property where those swales may be.
Dina
Yeah.
Jagger,
Yeah.
yeah.
This might be quite where I thought it was. We invited this, but I don't think we did.
No, but historically, that was the big issue, and it all came over
This
Yes.
on the north side of this property.
Yeah, it's all over here. You know, there's a couple more swales that come down in here.
Yeah.
It's a high water table out there.
15 inches or 18 inches, I mean.
I have a sort of utilitarian question for us, Janelle. It is, if there's swales marked on this and we accept this as a subdivision A2, and then someone buys a piece of property and that's where one of the swales are, and they change that as part of the, how do we?
My approach as CEO and planner would be to have the applicant property owner, if they're diverting from what's been approved as a subdivision proposal, the foundation of what the other development is to come, that they would have their engineer be
So
submitting
we would see that again or?
a further
okay.
report. Yeah, so whether
I got
it's a
nervous.
report that I'm giving to the commission as your agent, letting you know that there's been an engineer. In the event that any of these lots are sold, I would retain multiple copies of this. I sit with property owners regularly to discuss what it is they were doing, and if they wanted to stray from the initial engineering layout that Keith is proposing, I would ask them why, and I'd have their engineer provide sort of a counter report.
Perfect.
Cause they might, I mean, every engineer is different and we see different engineers using different methodologies. But I'd certainly ask them if they weren't going rain garden of a particular size, why, if they
Yeah, I
wanted
just
to
wanted to make
go
sure if we were approved.
side of the driveway swale. Every engineer does things differently, and property owners sometimes go away. They would actually do like a subterranean water retention, which is quite costly. But some property owners, they're particular about what they want in their lawn.
Right.
Rather than get into like the specs of what plants are you planting in your rain garden
Right.
and really hem in some.
That's
sort
why
of
it's kind of hard
property
at this
owner.
point to really propose something,
Yeah,
you know, because these are all gonna be individually developed.
We
Yeah, I just
are,
wanna make sure we had another shot at making.
If we were
sure
dealing with something where we're putting a road in and had drainage from a road and everything like that, and had to have, you know, detention ponds and things like
Yeah.
that, would be a different story than what. we're
Yeah.
looking at.
So
I
just-
would hold an applicant to
Just
it.
for
Thank you.
future applications and as the potential realtor of it, you know, under section 3 drainage facilities, swales or ditches may be used for drainage if approved by the town engineer. Obviously, that would require us hiring an engineer, and that would be part of the potential future costs of applications.
Yeah.
Okay. Soils, let's move on to soils.
Yep.
Section 5. Section 5.4 soils information. So there's a whole required. Do we have a soils report? I didn't see it, and
You know what?
may well have it in here.
I have it, I don't know if I included it in the stuff I sent over to you, so I made it,
So, yeah, so we'll need the.
Yeah.
the national.
the soil,
survey.
the soils are on here. They're. These lines that don't match, and there's the soil types on each. Section here. So the soils map is overlaid on this.
Okay,
They printed a
Oh, yeah,
little
I
lighter
see
than.
it. I see it,
Yeah.
48
To cut
feet.
it, yeah, yeah, 48, that'd be 48B. 91C,
and that pretty much covers a whole lot.
Yeah.
On this map.
yeah, they're all, yeah. Let's see. Does it show the name better? No, that's probably. The lines that don't follow the contours, the ones that are soil, or the soils are all overlaid on here. So I
So
forgot to
I think
include,
that's on there.
they're on there.
If you have a
The-
report, maybe,
The outline of what those all mean, I do not.
any perk test deep pits?
Yep.
And the results are,
Are on page. Oops, sorry.
You're fine.
So, the deep pits perks for each lot are on here.
Excellent. And I apologize. The map I had didn't.
It's so
just a
small.
blur.
Trying to look at things on the computer and everything else is, yeah. So each lot, as well as their septic calculations that we
Excellent.
sent to Torrance Area Health.
I'm sorry, going back to site conditions, is there any stone walls up in there? Existing stone walls? No, nothing,
No,
There are remnants, maybe.
but just nothing.
yeah, nothing,
prominent.
nothing, no prominent
They're,
stone wall.
they're rock piles pushed onto the, where's this dark upper field? I don't have,
The upper field's right here.
right, okay, so where did that old fire road come in? Right about where my finger is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there are stones piled here.
Yeah, but no.
They're
no,
not-
no.
not
It's
a-
mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a
It's-
stone wall.
it's
There's no
nothing-
noticeable stone walls.
Nothing pristine about it whatsoever.
I'm just going through this
Yep.
really quick. I apologize
No problem.
again. Existing drainage features, which you have the swales on there.
Yep.
And no wetlands, you
No.
determined, I think you said.
Yep,
on a pre-app.
there is a agricultural pond there, but it's purely an agricultural pond. It's not a wetlands area.
Identification of trees greater than 18 inches. Wow. That's crazy. Do you have that? It says it's, but I'm not asking for it. Site features. Okay, so do perk test.
Right, just say how they would be, like to be a down by. They want to speed and you flag them or.
Yeah, it says on a map. It's. like I
But then
said,
the regulations have nothing as far as tree.
well, that's why I think sometimes we have to,
I mean, it'd be.
I wanna know what town you
Happy
got.
to flag them for you. but-
I wanna know what town they stole these regulations from in 2012.
open.
Some bigger town that-
space. Open space, trails, building setbacks. You had the proposed
Yeah.
roughly house, but that'll
Yeah.
be in future applications.
Exactly.
We might run out of room.
The overlay of the overlay of the overlay. Let me go ahead to the drainage report. Did we have,
On the
like,
second page.
okay, so it was on your narrative.
Now, one thing, we have, are waiting Torrington Area Health approval. They have them, they've reviewed them. There was a few little things that, Julie Prue wanted me to provide her with. But, she was out sick today, so I wasn't able to get the final approval from her.
Are they still quite tardy in getting?
Been, yeah, but they've been just as busy as the rest of us lately, so
Yeah.
they've been pretty busy, so. But she did look at them yesterday. Yesterday was her late night and she sent me some stuff at the end of the night and I tried calling her this morning. She's out sick, so I was not able to get you the final approval, but
Okay.
it was minor stuff that she was just,
Sure.
You don't
So-
think her comments will render changes to this
No.
plan?
no, they were just more, she needed more details on a few things, but it wouldn't change anything. She was out there for the test holes and everything, observed everything and so would not change anything.
In addition, calculations and the basis used to evaluate potential impact on aquifer recharge and groundwater quality. Do you ever propose that?
No.
No. And strangely, they have that type of drainage.
Yeah.
It didn't mean much to me either, but I thought I'd ask the question.
Not,
And the formal, so just for fellow commissioners, on page 34 is the formal subdivision application with all these little boxes that we need to check. So if you guys, I have spoken quite a bit. If you guys think that I missed something, that's, I think, the time to do it.
Question.
Yes.
It seems that what we're gonna be doing, we haven't done a subdivision since the Aspen one. So we're going to approve this, and then as Janelle has said, the lots are sold individually and people are gonna come back and they're gonna change things. But one thing that I don't quite understand how we're gonna deal with is the common driveway. Somebody has to be held responsible for that, so they're gonna be like a homeowners association, and we have to make sure.
It's in the regs. I'm so glad you asked, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
is,
could you go over that?
absolutely. So, well, I was just on it. Let me flip to it. So the commission will be the body approving that common driveway. And there's a requirement for the formal agreement, so it gets filed on the land record. I do
Right.
see those all the time.
Yeah,
They're-
well, we haven't done this. And we had some problems with it, so do you think that the regulation is strong enough so that we don't encounter what we did encounter?
There's also a law in the state of Connecticut about common driveway.
Yeah,
There's a law in the
Law.
state of Connecticut. about
Well,
common
that didn't
driveway.
stop us from, having some issues with people not wanting to take responsibility.
Right, right.
I mean, that was from.
yeah, so the agreement, is going to be presented as a part of the application for a special permit. And then the commission would be reviewing that shared driveway.
Okay, so the lots are sold separately.
Yep,
and-
then it's a commission decision to approve a shared driveway. And they would need to determine that it reduces erosion, diversion of waterways, unsightliness, which I would take out, unnecessary defoliation and other detriment to the effect and neighboring land. It must be jointly owned by the owners of all the lots that it serves. And the owners of an existing lot using an existing access way shall agree to the addition of more lots to the access way. So in the event that that does happen, we'll work that in to correspond with this subdivision map and then make sure it satisfies the owners. And I'm sure they'll draw that up with their attorney, and then we also have the chance to review it from the P and Z standpoint.
So,
Especially what's very important is that erosion and sedimentation
yes,
notation,
yeah.
cause that would be in the event that a shared driveway comes before this commission, that we are looking at all of the maintenance improvements,
Yeah.
understanding that rain gardens do require maintenance. You can't just set them and forget them and hope that they'll function over time. So that will be an opportunity for the commission to revisit the true function of the driveway. And actually in that event, when driveways are rough cut, I would encourage this commission to schedule a site walk so you can understand the grades and understand the contours. And the site will be accessible at that time.
so if this lot sells first, right? And this one, let's say this sits for a while and this sells and they're building and so and if we were to approve this and were to approve this driveway, but then this one sold later, has this already been approved, or is it gonna go through it again in that segment to make sure they don't?
So the way that the regulations write is that the shared portion shall be jointly owned by the owners, all of the lots it serves. And that the owners of an existing lot, so let's say that scenario happens and this becomes the existing lot.
Right,
The owners of an existing lot using an existing access way shall agree to the addition of more lots to the access way. So in the presumption that this lot were to sell first.
right.
It would be made notably clear that they would actually be providing access to other
Right.
property owners.
But I guess my question is, if this one sells and we have cause we're gonna reapprove anything, it's all gotta get resubmitted essentially. And let's say we approve this and we approve this driveway, this hasn't sold. Then they come in, sell this one, build a house and do something to the driveway. Have we already approved it and it can't be messed with, or
So
it'll
that
go
would be
back through?
a civil agreement between these two neighbors, but they couldn't just go like far afield from what is being agreed
Yeah,
upon.
yeah,
mutually.
cause I'm not asking so much, I think I'm asking it right. But I'm not concerned about them agreeing, right? Cause they're you wouldn't buy this lot if you weren't ready to.
You hope not.
Well, fair enough. But I'm just saying, if we have gone through the process and given the final blessing for this driveway,
Mhm.
and then this person comes in and does something different to it than what we approved.
So it would be filed on the land record
Yeah.
as the shared driveway and
Yeah.
they would be holden to it.
Yeah. They
Okay.
wouldn't be able to
Okay.
do
Yeah,
that.
That's what I was
I mean-
thinking. Okay,
No, that's my question too.
Things happen. We
Yeah.
see it all
There
the
is a
time.
stipulation put on that other piece of property.
but they have to
then?
stick with,
That, yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
And it
too.
gets
There's a-
recorded on the
Would
land
that be like
record.
a denoted?
Yeah, it's in the-
Right of way
Yeah.
in essence?
Okay,
Yeah, it's all in the land record,
And
it's
then-
all,
they
The pro-
can't change that.
great, yeah, I got
Yeah.
nervous on that
Okay.
too, so no.
Yeah.
My
Perfect.
question would be, would that second owner, not the first one,
Right,
the second one have to also be supplying a site plan
and
Yeah,
that
for
was,
approval of the house
Exactly.
location?
Yes, they would have to do all that anyways. I just was concerned about any driveway change that we had already approved.
yeah, that's what I
If
thought.
they
Yeah.
alter that driveway,
you would have to be on the
it
Yeah.
has to be on. the
on the
plan.
site plan
Okay.
if they were gonna alter it.
Perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
So, just under the formal subdivision application, I think I'm gonna be finished here. Copy of the deed or approving applicant's ownership or, applicant or agent's authority for you to act on their behalf. Do we have that in the records?
I have I have the power,
Do you have the
I
power?
have the
of attorney?
power of attorney, I can.
Okay. It's just for submittals,
Yeah.
because it's a box we're gonna have to
Yep.
check.
I'm emailing
If not,
them,
I
like,
am.
Okay,
Excellent.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I think that's all I have.
I have
get it.
one, but maybe this is for, if this is for afterwards, please tell me. But I know, I would think that one of the biggest concerns is the drainage. And I know that this talks about the storm drainage facilities shall do these things, and one of which is not cause flooding to an abutting property. But what happens if the measures that are put in don't prevent that? Then what happens at that point?
There's recourse.
There's recourse,
Yeah, there
okay.
is recourse. I'm dealing with this
Okay,
all over because of the stormwater management issues this
Okay.
year. So in the event that someone cannot capture all the stormwater on their lot
right,
and it's evident,
right.
then it becomes
these last
An
2 years
issue.
have shown us a lot of.
a lot
spots
of
that
things. And,
didn't-
and in some
that Nobody knew
cases,
about before.
yeah, towns are getting dragged in because we've approved plans that
Right.
haven't held.
Been sufficient.
Been sufficient,
Okay.
yeah, and then there are other cases that plans had not been adhered to,
Ah,
and that becomes more of a civil issue amongst property owners
Oh,
to figure out.
gotcha.
So here's a question. Actually, it's not part of the application. I was just gonna say, if you kind of have three shots on the common driveway, because they're each individual lots tied together on this driveway, so if something fails on. Let's go to the scenario that
Yeah.
the top lot sells first and they
Right.
put the road in, but something's not quite right. Can we then require them to, hey, this isn't working, you need more? So at least we have more.
Something, okay.
You know, because some of the stuff,
Well, it's-
honestly,
Especially
just in reality, going from paper to reality sometimes.
as there's an increase in impervious coverage along the lots, so as one gets developed, it might be different. Things will perk differently than when there's a second developed lot, and the hydrology will change as a result. Development changes hydrology end of. And that will give us a chance to understand. My sneaking suspicion is that in putting these rain gardens on the site plan, you did some test pits of your
Yeah.
own and just did the due diligence as an engineer
Yep.
and chose these locations, not arbitrarily, but because of the elevations.
Yeah, we're
where
trying to
things were
capture,
perking.
exactly, we're trying to capture, capture especially in these steeper sloped areas. We want to capture it more often so that we can.
Slow it down.
Slow it down and,
So
off
eventually,
there.
you've done the homework for any engineer to come after you. And in the event that they wish to do something differently, I would ask them, why, and also make sure that they have access to all of this.
Yep.
If they are presenting an alternative to us. And I like going out in the field to verify these things, so that's what I do.
Are you seeing any runoff from those swales on the north end onto your property? Or is it all being pushed the other way?
these one, they're all down, the north end is all downhill.
It's down, okay.
Yeah,
So you're getting nothing out of that? I mean,
no, there's no there's no run, the top of the hill is here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really steep, that's why it really
Yeah,
runs
yeah,
off.
we're-
You got this big
Sort of
steep
down
knob
below.
kind of right here in the middle, then it, it comes down and you can actually start to see the swales starting to form. Kind
Yeah,
of
the
here as
high
you go
point
down.
is
Are you familiar with this property?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, you got a knob here that just kind of pokes up out
I
of
think I'm very.
the middle. That's
Mhm.
all wooded, the
Very
knob
close
is
to it,
all
yeah.
wooded
Yeah.
and then it's field.
Yeah.
This way is all field, there's a woods strip through here. That we put the houses here downhill of those so that we won't be, to try to avoid disturbing that wooded area and keep a buffer for this to
Smart.
infiltrate.
Any commissioners? Fred, did you wanna?
I
Comment,
think,
concerns?
actually, Greg, I think you were very thorough going through item by item. And, it seems like you covered all the bases. I'm just, wondering if there's going to be, we are now gonna ask members of the public for their comments or questions. And, I'm assuming that if we do close the public hearing, and I wanted Janelle to address this, we have a timeline to make a decision. Is that correct? 65 days from closing of the public hearing? Is that correct, Janelle?
That's correct.
Okay.
So
So I,
you have to, nope, you have to close the public hearing within 65 days and render a decision within 35 days.
okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But if there's no other questions from the commission, perhaps there would be questions or comments from the public, so.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna check with Mark next, who's also zooming. Mark, did you have any questions? No questions for Mark. Any other commissioners? Just as a question, because we're missing a few little small things. Would it be wise to keep the public hearing open in case when they're submitted, there's a question? In your opinion? Is that necessary?
I
Because
would,
what if something comes in, but
if the
we,
commission, I would listen to public comments
Mhm.
before you entertain whether we're keeping the hearing open or closing it, because the public might bring to light some
Right.
outstanding information that you'd like to learn. But in the sense that if the items that Keith will be submitting are relatively straightforward and formulaic, like the list of abutters, copy of return receipts, soils reports, Torrington area health approval and power of attorney. If that's not going to have a big
Mhm.
sway on your decision making and is more of a checking of the box formality, as your staff, I feel comfortable just advising that you condition the approval
Okay.
on the receipt of those
Excellent.
items.
All right, so we're
The
at public comment.
might just.
John Allen.
So I just had a bunch of questions. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know that much about drainage and stuff, and drainage is a really big issue. Right here on BB Hill Road, you said this was like a 15% grade, and then it went up to an 18% grade, something like that?
Yeah, up through 18 was right up.
And then you were saying you were gonna put rain gardens along here, right?
Yeah, ring guard here.
Okay, my first question is, are you actually gonna put them in, or are you just gonna incorporate it in your plan and tell the homeowners that they have to put them in?
They'll be put in as part of the development of the lots. Addressing the.
So my thought is on that, well, let me just ask the second question,
Yeah,
which is related
and
to.
just to caution everyone, so the way public hearings work is questions get asked to the commission.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, rather than a back and forth with our applicant and then they get fielded. So just, not,
I'm John
we're
Allen.
a casual group here, but just to make
Did you
sure
get
that
his name,
Keith
Janelle?
doesn't feel, John
Janelle,
Allen,
no,
yeah.
Sometimes
Thank
I
you.
create problems.
John, what's your next question?
Okay,
I-
next question. So you have the rain gardens here. Well, since I live over here and I walk on this road all the time, and this is all clay material. I would think, I'm not sure since I'm not an engineer, that this water somehow, I mean, it's certainly not gonna be absorbed by the ground because there's a huge amount of water coming down. It's gonna hit the road, and so the Houstonic River is way down there. How's the water gonna get from this road all the way down to the Houstonic River? Because there's no way the rain gardens are gonna stop that flow. They just don't. I mean, if you live there, you can see that all the time. That was my second question. And I don't know if you're gonna have suggestions, but I'll make a suggestion. Anyway, I think that the whole drainage issue is so critical, and there's a third issue too, which I want to mention related to drainage, is that I think a full engineering report should be done by the engineer. And I won't look at you because I'm not supposed to look at you. So that it can be analyzed in depth by the engineer of Falls Hills, because it really is critical. The other thing that I would like to, and I love the question about the driveway. I had exactly the same question about driveway. The other thing is that there is a wetlands, but it's off the property, and I think it's considered to be a wetlands because it used to be, I'll mention in a second.
Yeah.
Because it used to be part of my property before the Bornemans sold it or gave it to the town. So, and I can't remember the name of the stupid road, but if you're on Route 7.
Machine.
Got it, okay. If you go down that road on the right-hand side, there is a area which used to be part of the Borneman property. I think it's 10 acres.
10
which
acres.
is- Which is very wet. And oddly enough, that wetland is maintained by the runoff from this hill, because it goes through my property. So the question is that wetlands gonna be affected? And is the wildlife in that wetlands gonna be adversely affected? Because according to their plan, which I'm not sure if it would really work, but if you do the drainage analysis, you'll find it. Will it dry out that wetland and therefore have an adverse effect on the wildlife there? And I don't know, since this property is, it definitely affects it, but it's a ways away. The other comment that I would have is that these swales, maybe they are badly configured so that water comes off the end, but I will guarantee you, those swales don't do a thing. Anyway, end of thoughts.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So I'm gonna take John's questions and comments, some. The question about and I think we sort of had the same line of question is, which I don't know if it now's the right time or when the people buy it. But how do we, and I guess either way, I would like your opinion.
Yeah.
If that's, Janelle, please quiet me down if I need to be quiet.
Not a problem.
Because I think it's a legitimate question on the whole subdivision is the water runoff and the water runoff. I'm not convinced about the rain gardens. John lives there nearby. He's not convinced about the rain gardens. But it's under our purview. So I guess my question is, again, where does the water go that's in the rain garden? I know it's slowing it. I understand totally the concept of it. But every rain garden that I'm familiar with either has permeable soils underneath that will take it. Or it has, most of mine have a pipe.
All of our majority of our area of impervious that we're adding is this upper section of driveway. We'll still have this
Will still be
wooded
the wooded
area. So all these rain gardens, once they fill in it'll slow the flow down. It'll spread it out there straight across the contour.
Mhm.
So rather than an outlet pipe,
Sheet flow.
we'd sheet flow over the side.
And I'm not concerned up there, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. It's these three.
These three here, yeah. Yeah, and like I said, this is all wooded as well.
So it'll
sheet
still be
flow,
a sheet
I
flow
would
out.
sheet flow them
I
out.
know you kind of touched that before, but.
Rather than putting an outlet pipe and having a concentrated discharge, which I don't believe would work very well in this
It's
situation.
not advisable.
We would
Yeah,
just sheet flow over top of that's one of the reasons that went as long as we could with these rain gardens, stretch them out. across the,
To break that.
to
point
break
low.
that point impact. So catching it, every couple hundred feet here, spreading it out across the side of the hill through the wooded area here to then give a larger area for it to infiltrate.
I mean, it might be a consideration, BB Hill Road. Are there culverts? I'm trying to recall. I don't, yeah, and they're not on this plan, which is not in your, purview or your property, but that would just maybe be a future consideration for the town anticipating further development so that they can be mindful of the culverts and making sure that
They're sized
they're
appropriately.
sized appropriately and also that
Yeah.
water is directed downwards.
These
towards
open
them.
fields, they shed a lot of water as it is. It's a wide open, by doing this design, we're giving it some chance to infiltrate with these rain gardens. We're only proposing 4 lots on 72 acres.
Yep.
And then,
It's very minimal development for that size of parcel.
Engineering, and that was another interesting point I feel, is my sole individual membership on this commission. The engineering stormwater, I really think that, and it's not necessarily needs to happen for this approval. I'm not sure yet, that's for us to decide, but I really think that we need a second engineered look at this, a town hired by the town, funded by the applicant, to just make sure that.
Yeah. And I think
we're
one of
checking
the,
this box.
I think one of the things is that when these lots are being developed, my suggestion would be that would be the time to be doing it. We're not proposing a ton of little lots.
Cause we're
here.
not doing construction.
We're
you're
not, this
proposing
this could
construction.
change completely when the applicants come back with it.
Putting drains, if they're outletting, if they want depressions, if they want retention ponds.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, it's kind of premature at this stage because they could,
Drains.
the houses could be, we show a rectangle on here for a proposed house
Yeah,
that could be nothing like what somebody develops up there.
well, and to go full circle back to Ruth and, the last one being how many ever years ago,
Mhm.
right, so I'm still a little bit confused about, we're approving a plan, but it's like a rough draft plan.
And
Weirdly
level
enough,
requirements matter for the
But
next
you need to
one.
meet certain
Yeah.
criteria in the rough draft plan. But we can't quite pin you down on them because it's not this, is that, I don't know, Janelle, is that
Oh,
normal?
but yeah, it is normal, cause right now I would look at it, you're looking at it as it's a lot line modification for 4 lots essentially. And you're looking at it because all the lots are interacting with one another. It's actually quite rare
Yeah.
to not have wetlands on such a sizable portion of property. So you're looking at it from this lot line modification, also knowing future development is going to require scrutiny, engineering, stormwater management, and many agreements, easement access ways. I think the big one is going to be the extent of the driveway and all of the earthwork and grading that.
It's quite a bit different type of proposal than we were seeing in the early 2000s when people would come in and put a road in and put, develop all the utility. Cause some of your stuff mentions underground utilities and all that stuff, which is really designed
That was on my
around.
list and somehow it snuck out.
It's, designed on that cul-de-sac going in and the utilities being put in place so that when the people buy the land, that they're,
Plug it.
this is kind of a different scenario, that's coming in and then the lots are all accessed by some common, road that comes in. Here, we're all meeting the frontage on every one of these lots and, it's like Janelle said, it's more of kind of a lot line revision type of a scenario than
That
it
falls
is.
under subdivision.
It falls under subdivision legally, but it's, it's a different type of subdivision than the regulations were written for, I believe.
So I think maybe I could deal with the next one, the adverse effect on the wetland on Fasheen Street. If it's not contiguous with it, as far as property ownership, I think it's a moot point. Is that-
With wetlands, the jurisdiction is going to be anything within the upland review area, whether it's off the property, it could still fall within that jurisdiction. It's just at this particular, Fasheen is far away from the proposal. And then also, it's actually a different watershed, so there's this watershed that goes through the Housatonic, and it looks like Fasheen is in a different watershed. Granted, all of our watersheds integrate and are acting together until they hit a point down. But there's this watershed. It's to the right, there's another one to the left, and then eventually they're all outletting to the
Yeah.
Housatonic. So they all work in concert with one another and are essentially important for the jurisdiction of this subdivision because of the fact that that upland review area is well outside of the parameters of the subdivision. It doesn't fall into it, but watersheds are important to look at comprehensively with stormwater management and other things.
Thank you.
Greg, I don't know if Fred can hear this. Fred had talked to George Johansson about serving as our town engineer for precisely this kind of, Janelle, what I see here is that the real potential problems are when people start putting driveways in.
When they start
Oh,
developing.
yeah, any impervious
Yeah.
space, or a deck, a yard, part of the
Well, I'm
patio,
thinking
the house
about
itself.
permeable and
That
impermeable.
all makes a
Just
big
the
difference.
disturbance makes it 8 times worse.
So, I mean, it seems to me that's where we're really gonna have our challenges.
But that's why it's important to really go through this list, I think, the way that we have been.
Mhm.
And John had a comment about swales, but I think it's just a comment.
Just, I have two questions. So back to you. First of all, one thing I think that your engineer should consider is if the swales are going to try to spread out the water, they will spread it out down towards
The rain gardens?
the rain garden, I'm sorry. The rain gardens. They'll spread it down towards this area where Red Fox Farm is, and we might want to get in touch with the owner because Red Fox Farm itself right now has huge drainage problems and the building itself is having severe problems because of the water. The second thing is, again, I don't know how you handle this, and I don't even know if it's appropriate to bring it up. But it would seem to me that I think Janelle's absolutely right, that the issue is going to be when these owners come along and buy this property. My concern would be for the town in that this could be a very good plan. You know, it could be a very good plan. But when you have homeowners coming along dealing with much more technical issues, when they actually have to build the driveway and they have to put in all these different things, you're gonna be potentially in conflict with 4 different groups of people. So it would behoove the town, it might behoove the town to have the existing owner come up with a much more detailed plan and start working on it so that it would reduce some of the headaches of the town going forward.
What, could you give an example of what you're talking about specifically?
Well, you know, I'm thinking, for instance, about your comment about, first of all, some of this stuff is gonna be pretty expensive in terms of drainage. So that it would, just a footnote. I don't know if the existing owners, when they're selling this property, are going to have a written document explaining these types of problems to the potential owners.
Yeah, it's
So
not
the
under our
potential-
purview.
It's not under your
Yeah, it's
purview.
not.
So that means it could complicate your life even more because they won't know about the issues.
Are you interested in joining this commission?
Well, actually, a comment about that.
Thankfully, the
I don't
real,
mean to interrupt you,
thankfully, the realtor is
but
here.
realtors have to divulge
Yeah.
known material facts.
It's,
And your agenda or minutes from this meeting will be known material facts.
mm,
So you'll ask the potential buyers to.
Over here, John.
Minutes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Forgot me already.
And
I just think it needs to be made crystal clear so that you don't tell the potential homeowners, well, you know, you should go back and look at the town minutes. I think they should really be aware of this because it's very, very important. It could be very important also for the Isabel Friedman Farm and their ability to raise crops because of the drainage issue and stuff. So, I mean, it's just a thought.
Well, we have a very reputable Realtor, so I'm confident that that would be.
I have to disclose it if you can put it in your minutes.
Yep.
I have to disclose it.
And I mean, I'm also thankful to say I interface with many prospective property owners all the time because people are diligent or their agent is diligent and asks for these things and site plans, and being the enforcement agent that I am, that you've grown to know, I don't not divulge these very important things. If anything, I'm the last person that the realtor would want me to talk to before trying to sell a lot, to be frank. So in that event, luckily, the role lends itself to be a pretty public facing, and questions do come in from prospective property owners, realtors, and
Their attorneys.
always their attorneys, without fail, their attorneys, and they need it immediately, quite often.
Any other public comment?
Just have one question.
Sure.
When was it first?
Just need your name for the record.
Kinsella?
Great. First name, sorry,
Tim,
Tim.
Still.
I'm just curious when it was perked. And do you think it would perk today after 10 months of rain?
Yep, one of the things with perk tests, they are not dependent on the amount of rain because we pre-soak the holes. So
Over here, Keith.
we pre-soak the holes so that they are acting in the same conditions that they would be when the septic system is installed. Or when drainage is installed, we soak them for more than an hour of time, fully saturating the soils in the area so that all voids in the soils are filled. And that the soil is acting like a,
Do you have the date of the perk test?
3 months ago.
yeah, I was looking for it on the plan, I have it on here.
Yeah, it was about
Do I have the date?
3 months ago, 4 months ago. The other thing too is a perk test is only valid in Connecticut for 18 months.
Mhm.
All right, so it lovely sell for lots for 18 months time, but there's a very good chance the lots will have to perk again.
So I think if I was to interpret the question a little bit too, is, do you see the modeling could change
No.
if this is a weather pattern or the modeling is the
Modeling is modeling, that's one of the things, test holes, we are not looking for where the water comes in the hole, we're looking for modeling. Modeling is the ring around your bathtub, it's the stain left in the soil by water staying at a certain level for long enough to leave that stain behind, so it's the rust colors, the different things that are in the soil, the hard water basically gets left, leaves a line in the soil. So when we do test holes, because then if it was weather dependent, septic systems would be failing all over the place. It's not, we're looking at different things. We're not looking for where the water's coming in. We're looking for where it's been. It's a historical marker in the soil. So we dig these test holes, 7 feet deep. We're looking on these ones, we found models, you'll see it on here, the soils description, models at 18. That's where we're seeing the seasonal high water table. So it's an indicator that's the case. We'll also look at what the soils are above that. We're taking it in our hands, we're feeling it, we're feeling the grittiness, feel the density of it. And that layer is a harder layer that the water comes down through, stops there for long enough to leave behind its mark. And then slowly makes its way out of the area. And then the perk tests, we do it in the ground at the level that we'd be trying to absorb into. They're pre-soaked. And if you look at the data from any of these perks, you'll see that at the beginning, the holes start draining faster. As they get, if you looked at it on a graph, the numbers flatten out to the point where the soil is fully saturated, and that's what it's draining at. And it'll continue to drain at that level the entire time. That's how, so otherwise, if that wasn't the case, septic systems would be failing left and right because they're fully saturated all the time. It needs to have
Unknown perk rate.
we're doing that perk rate in a way that determines that.
I just have something, I was thinking I had already
Susan Kelsey.
presented.
Yep, name for the record. Thank you.
Susan Kelsey, I'm sorry. I'm also with the Canaan Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission. And I was thinking that I had already presented you guys a packet, but now I'm remembering it was zoning board of appeals. So, this really is the first you've heard anything about this, and I apologize because I did have, some pretty nice materials that I shared with ZBA, but that's all right. So from the Inland Wetlands Conservation perspective, as I had shared with the ZBA, the Beebe Hill, as we call it, drainage issue, has been, a topic of conversation at least since probably the mid 1980s. So we're talking close to 40 years, okay? And, it has come up time and time again. Years would go by, it would kind of rest, and then we'd have some major storm events, major issues of drainage would occur. Deer Road severely affected, Amy Road severely affected, and it actually even would come out onto Route 126. So, I mean, the issues that have come, we are, not that we asked for it. We were always the commission, for whatever reason, probably because it involved water. We were always the commission that residents would come to, pleading with us and eventually often demanding from us to resolve this situation with threats of suing the town if we did not address these issues. So we did, and I don't have all the specific details, but there was definitely a very, very, very detailed engineering study. And I don't know where it ended up. The selectmen had it at one point, but this was back probably late 80s. At that time, they presented like 12 different options and everything, and they were all very costly, and it kind of just died. And so, but then years go by and the drainage conditions worsen because of, 10, 15 years have gone by and the erosion continues significantly. So, probably most recently, well, there was, Faye Lawson had an extreme issue with the drainage coming from across Beebe Hill Road. And she was very upset about the issue and the apparent non-commitment from the town to get involved with it and help her with it. And she ultimately took it upon herself to, on her property, to do some culvert work and stuff, which at least for now has been helping it. So, but then we've also had issues of, landowners getting together, and the Wetlands Conservation Commission helped facilitate it to listen to the, landowners' concerns and trying to see what we could do. We would talk to the selectmen about what can we do here. And there was one, and I don't have the details of it because it was done without our, and Doug actually might be able to speak to this more, because I think they were, in this grant proposal, they were specifically addressing a drainage ditch coming through the woods, that I think went between the Combs house and the Woods house. Am I right, Doug? Did they do,
It wasn't gonna be that close to ours, but yes, it came down from actually Mahoney's house down that way. This was, I think, George Anastasia you're talking about? Yeah. They went to the state and it was more redirected from, if you go up Deer Road, stay left of the Mahoney's property, kind of right down through that.
Okay, and this really isn't the time for all these specifics. I understand that, and so I'm not even going there. But my point being is this has been an ongoing, very significant issue to our town. And I did happen to find a 1980 89 communication, which I will give to you guys, that was, generated through the USDA Soil Conservation Service. And their district came out and did an inspection. And it talks about the extensive gully systems occurring between Deer Run Road. They referred to it here as the Copper Line Farm, but it's the Coolidge Farm. And this gully system itself is a major potential contributor of sediment in the Kellogg Pond watershed. It does not appear the system has been stabilized, and so it's likely to be a source of sediment in the future. To stabilize the gullies, the banks would have to be regraded and the channel either revegetated or lined with rock riprap based on runoff quantities and velocities. An engineer would need to design these channels. Stabilization is likely to be extremely difficult due to the number of landowners involved and the high cost of construction. An alternative is to trap the sediment in sediment basins. You know, it goes on. It does specifically talk about Deer Run Road being a gravel road with extensive erosion issues. The Coolidge Farm has field erosion occurring, which was evident during our site visit. The farmer has a conservation plan to control this erosion. The plan calls for a series of measures such as crop rotation. This was subsequent to the Soil Conservation Service constructing those terraces, which is really what's contributing to the gullies. And the last comment they made was any new construction which takes place in this watershed should be done with extreme care due to the existing problems. New construction can add to the peak flow of water through channels and so may cause more gully erosion. Erosion and sediment controls are needed during construction to control the short-term effects. So the bottom line is just our commission wants to alert you all to the extensiveness of this being on the town's radar. Okay, so I would like to give that to you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
I think, Keith, I would,
Thanks, Susan.
there wasn't quite a question there, but if I had to sum it up, I would say, is there visible erosion today around the swale work
There is
or the
not.
terracing work?
Not on the two swales that are on our. piece.
Okay, and then do you think that with what you're proposing, it could help the situation?
Yes,
Through
that-
that parcel?
I think,
Can't do anything
you know,
with
we can't do
neighbors.
anything about the neighbors, but I think that the fact that these are all gonna have to be all gonna have to be approved before you guys can.
Yeah.
Before you guys will approve somebody actually building on here. I do believe that this is opening it up for you guys to have a say.
Opportunity to fix a
To fix the
longstanding
things,
issue.
because
potentially, or make it.
If it just stays farm, nobody has to do anything about it. By doing this, it gets you guys involved. It gives you guys a voice in saying, well, if you wanna build your house here, here's what you're gonna have to do to make it happen. That's
Yeah.
all within your guys' purview to do. And I think that this opens up that door for you guys to come up with some solutions, at least on this parcel. Like I said,
And having this study, I believe, is beneficial, so thank you.
Yeah.
Because then it's now maybe an opportunity to fix
yeah, I've walked both these swales. They're very stable right now and everything, and we're not getting erosion off of this. But, you know, right now it's, you know, it's not being farmed the way it was back in the time of those reports, you know, it's not being,
is it being farmed then?
they've been hayed, but it's not being corn or, you know, tilled up. So it's a different, you know.
Yeah.
It's all stable now versus when
Right,
it
a
would have
stable
been,
root system.
versus taking it and making a cornfield or something and.
I think Alan Cockerline dropped off.
He did.
He said he had to leave. I do have two, if you're ready for more public communication, I do have two letters from him. One was dated 9:31 AM, received via email, and it just reads, Janelle, on the Coolidge subdivision, I saw the narrative, but not the plans. Are they available online or are they available at the town hall? I support the 4 driveways using the 1 cut, but I do see it as 3 now. Do the regs support that? We, Salisbury P and Z, recently went from 2 to 3 shared driveways to lessen the impact of road cuts. I thought this got sent to ZBA. Why didn't they deal with it? I will likely attend either in person or via Zoom. While I am not a resident in Falls Village, I do own a house there and lived on Coolidge Farm for 28 years. I have an understanding of the property under all kinds of conditions. I fully support this application and urge its approval. And I responded to him about how the application was unsuccessful, due to what seemed like a lot of confusion by the ZBA. And he added that he would be attending via Zoom, but he would have to leave at 6:30. He would like to voice his support for an approval in, and is even more supportive after seeing the survey and engineering of Keith Bodwell. I sent him all of the attachments. Looks like the driveway cut for one of the lower lots will work out with a certain amount of earth moving. It was encouraging to see a fairly extensive use of rain gardens to capture and infiltrate water from the driveways. It also appears that much of the farmland may remain intact on the upper lots. If the timing works out, I will speak at the meeting, but if not, I have spoken my support for approval in this and previous email.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, commissioners, we're at a point, oh, Mark, you're on mute. Hold on, can I unmute him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should be able to.
Oh, over here, maybe?
Yeah.
Hold on, Mark,
Want me to do it?
please.
Yeah.
It just says ask to unmute, so I'm not sure. Oh, Mark?
There he is.
I clicked on mute. Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
You hear me? Okay. I just wanted
Yes.
to thank the presenter for being so thorough and helpful. And I think it sounds like as far as it goes, I don't see anything to object to. And it would just depend on what happens in the future. But we'll have another shot at it. Any questions that come up then. But so far, it seems to me all very logical and well thought out.
Thank you. We did
Following
have
up
a.
on,
Go ahead, Fred.
yeah, following up on what Mark is saying, I would like to make a motion that we close the public hearing with the conditioner caveat that the requirements that we're requesting be presented prior to the next meeting. And we would have the opportunity to discuss further after we close the meeting or at the next meeting. But I think this has been a very thorough and helpful public hearing. And I got to commend Greg for actually being very thorough with our subdivision and, looking at the different conditions on the property. But it seems like Bodwell has approached the drainage issue, appropriately for our subdivision regulations. And that, as Mark said, and has been mentioned a number of times, when the property owners come to us, that would appear to be the time that we can really be thorough and really look at all the drainage issues along with the other driveway issues that may become evident there. So I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Before I get a second on that, Fred, if it's okay with you, and only if it's okay with you, we did have a member of the public, another member show up. If I would like to ask him if they have any comment before we take any action. But you made the motion, so it's up to you.
Yeah, no, fine. I'll hold
We're
that.
putting him on the spot. We're absolutely putting him on the spot.
No, that's fine. So we got the presentation. We asked a lot of questions. We went through public comment, and it seems like maybe we have two more other than the new person. Quick ones. Any comment at all, Chris, you'd like to make? I understand you, even if we've already covered it, not a big.
Sure, well, I work with my son, Tim.
Can you come around the corner?
There, and,
See him.
very aware of,
You can come in.
the topography, or I guess the issues that were mitigated early on, back in the early seventies. And, how sensitive that all can be. My concern is if they're not addressed, correctly, where the liability falls, after the fact. It's a great piece of property, and, I mean, both for making hay and, it would be nice to have a house up there, it's a beautiful view. But that's, really doesn't play into this. So, that's all I have to say, yeah.
Thank you. Susan, real quick?
Question, probably Janelle can answer. If you close the public hearing, can you receive additional information?
Nope.
You can't.
We cannot. Did you want us to have additional
Well, I just-
information?
For the ZBA, I know I had some more letters similar to that, and I had a light on that too. I didn't know if any. That's it.
So I would love to retain a copy as
Okay.
staff to use on the
That's
record for the potential future development.
Right.
Yeah, if that
He's got a
satisfies the
copy
commission.
of
I have it right here, I just didn't know how to present it.
Susan presented. John, real quick.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate my comment that I think that, from a procedural perspective, the more work that the current owners do on that property in terms of drainage, the better off the town is, because once you get into a point where you're dealing with 4 landowners with much more technically difficult drainage issues, I hate to think of you guys walking into a nightmare, that's all.
Thank you.
One comment on
Outside, the owners are not going to do any work.
Yeah.
and
They are both ill.
Hmm.
And the daughter's got power of attorney. They will not take on anything. And I think it's the choice between having one shot at doing things with one lot or having 4 opportunities to have things done correctly.
And, you never know, somebody could buy both front lots and do one house on there. And then drainage,
Yeah.
then
Not,
drainage
not,
work they would do would be,
not our purview,
Yeah.
so that's fine.
Dave just walked in.
We're closing it. Fred, Mr. Barger? Mr. Barger, sir?
Do you have any public comments, sir?
Is there any comment you'd like to make on this Coolidge application, subdivision application, putting you
No,
completely
I'm
on the
just
spot?
passing through.
Okay.
I had my meeting, you were having.
I think this wall
We
is
have-
is an interesting addition.
We're just about to close public comments. I just wanted to make sure, because I heard you had entered the building. It was either you or Elvis. So Fred, do you have a motion on the floor? Is there a second? Is there any question on that motion? Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Ruth seconds, discussion. No discussion? All in favor of
Aye.
closing this public? Aye, so moved, unanimous. Thank you, Keith.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Close the meeting. I should have said the time at 7:52
Yeah,
per the town clock, which is probably wrong.
nope, it's correct.
Well,
Per Apple's digital
wow.
information.
So a very, very long one, but we haven't had one since Aspen Hill Drive and we don't know when the next one's gonna be. So we wanted to get our money's worth.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the regular meeting, call to order at 7:52. Approval of minutes. I'll seek a motion to approve regular meeting minutes from February 22nd, 2024. Matt makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Steve seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Special workshop meeting, March 7th, 2024. You making a motion?
No, I have a change. I need,
All right, so, okay,
there needs to be a change made, section 5, the adjournment, was not done by Fred Laser, it was done by Greg Martin.
Very good, Stephen. I picked that up also.
Oh, perfect.
I didn't want the
But it was,
credit, but I
she
do
did
do all
it.
the, I do
I
all
gotta tell you,
adjournments.
she did a very nice job there. That was nice.
So that was a very tough meeting to take minutes of. We covered a lot of
Yeah,
ground
it
and
was-
a lot of different directions. and
Yeah.
A lot of rabbit holes, but,
There
okay.
it is.
Any other changes
No, that's-
suggested?
Nice catch.
So I think Steve is making a motion
Motion
to approve the minutes as amended.
as amended, yes, please.
I thought that's what I heard him say. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Great.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Excellent, thank you. Any public comments? Any more public comments?
Okay.
So do I just give this to you and leave, or do I talk about it? Since it's in public comment.
I don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is.
All right, Janelle wrote the Conservation Wetlands Commission a memo, and it kind of questioned regulatory authorities of, and also the establishment of the Conservation Commission. Okay, and so I was just asked to go through town meeting minutes to see indeed, because I certainly don't know how it all started, whatever. However, I did discover by doing this, I have been on the Wetlands Commission more than 40 years.
Is the first selectman still here? Because that's do a watch.
But, so anyway, I'm just gonna give you guys this and you can look it over.
That's
and make
helpful.
your own
Excellent.
Thank you so
you.
much.
But it does seem like originally we started as a conservation commission in, I think, 1973, two or three. And then the preceding year, I think the inland wetlands and water courses act came into effect.
Yeah,
And at that point, the town gave us let's see,
you were forced into
No.
it.
the ability to act also as the commission to oversee the Wetlands Water Courses Act. Okay, so anyway, you know, I'm just.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
digging that up. Is this your original copy? Do you want me to
I-
make a copy so you can retain it?
That's the original, but you can take it. I don't
She has a
want to see
copy.
it again.
This is the 40-year-old original?
Oh, no.
We found it in your file.
Thank you for
That-
digging
that
this
paper
up.
would have
This will be
been a
really
little more
helpful.
yellow.
Well, look how yellow it is.
I can speak for our commission, that if, this might be the best thing that has happened to our commission in 40 years, this Beatty Hill watershed thing, because maybe you guys have more authority and you can deal with it.
Yeah.
We really come under a lot of stress from a lot of residents, with their expectation about us solving their issues. So we would welcome you to take over.
Susan, I'm feeling stressed already.
Susan, my one thought is
40
that,
years. Susan,
Susan, before you run away, my
yeah.
one thought is that we should get some of this info up on your website so that you're advertised properly. Because right now it reads as if all you do is inland wetlands work and not the conservation work.
Oh, well.
I mean, I know you're
don't
trying to
know.
run away from it.
Oh, no, thank you.
I don't do
Appreciate
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Susan, I am aware of the communication between the inland wetland and our ZEO. And I just want to let you know, from my perspective, and I'm probably pretty comfortable speaking for most of us, that our whole goal is to work together.
Yeah, it's for mutual understanding.
And, you know, sometimes sometimes we just got a question in order to get
Of course.
things straightened
Yeah,
out.
it was not meant to, it was not meant to bring offense. I was also concerned because an applicant didn't know that he was gonna be on an agenda.
Exactly.
And I get a lot of calls because of the nature of the work.
It's fine.
So it
All
was,
around.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Any other public comment? Keith, do you have any more to say? All right, on to new business, item 3. proposed subdivision, BB Hill Road, did we get that?
I don't know.
Map 4, lot 15-2. Fred, do you want to start with your take on where we are in the process?
I would, like to ask Janelle, first off, to make, certain, I think she went through the whole, list, and you went through your list. Are there any things outstanding that we need to review that were brought up through this, public hearing? And, obviously, we think we've addressed, the engineer has addressed the drainage issue, and the drainage issue has been discussed extensively. So I'm just curious if there's anything else that the commission should be looking at, because I think the outstanding items still are pretty much documents that will be readily available prior to the next meeting. So I'm opening it to the commission if there's any other things that we should be reviewing.
So may I just jump in?
Yes, please.
So the list that I have made during the proceeding includes the following. From our applicant Keith Bodwell, I await the list of abutters, copy of return receipts of mailing, soils report, and a separate sheet with the notations on the map, Torrington Area Health approval, and then the power of attorney authorizing Keith to act as the representative.
So I would, thank you, Janelle.
You're welcome.
Anything further you want to?
Nope,
Adam?
just for the record.
So I guess I'm struggling a little bit of how we could possibly act on this tonight. Just going through even things such as fees in lieu of open space, which the applicant has chosen to do instead of going the other. But in essence, as I read this, it is it's set by our commission to request the fee. But what's that based off from?
That's not
Right,
great.
you know, and we have such little inexperience on this, and it's on us, it's not on the applicant, but, you know,
It's
we're,
usually done, in other towns at least, it's usually done at time of sale of the lots that the fee is set, so.
so if that is the case, then we would have to put that on Janelle's list.
Mhm.
And that's just one thing, right? There's 52 pages,
It's,
most of it's not.
so I would say as far as this act of the subdivision, I would look at that as being subsequent to what it is that we're putting on the record for us to do our homework to follow up on. So formulate this fee in lieu scenario for the first purchaser of the lot, and then retain Bodwell's report, the new information that we just received from the Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission, and all the other materials this evening, along with a copy of the subdivision regulations.
So that, I guess to further answer my question, you're saying that we would just get it on the record through the regulations for any future purchaser that could be a fee, but they don't know what the fee's gonna be, because we don't know what the fee's gonna be.
No, and that we should put that on our next agenda to discuss.
Fee in lieu of,
Yeah, to discuss our mechanism for fee in lieu, and then this is the perfect time, since we're fresh with it, the other potential amendments to the subdivision regulations. Thank you.
that would be beneficial.
I'm not even kidding.
I've already been sending Janelle ones as we go.
This might be a stupid question,
No, not a
but
stupid question.
if we're going through our subdivision
Sometimes they are.
regs as part of this application,
Yeah,
when one person buys a piece of property and then makes us do a site acceptance on that plan, is that still under our subdivision regs, or does
No.
that go back to our regular reg?
it's a great question. So the subdivision regulations, you're acting as a planning commission when you're making the decision of a subdivision. you wear the two hats, planning
Sure.
and zoning. When the actual applicant comes before you with a site plan, you're acting as the zoning commission and making sure it complies with your current regs.
Got it.
So I would advise this commission to look at the structure for fee and lieu, and then stormwater management is gonna probably be the most important, knowing that there's the potential for this development to hopefully happen sooner rather than later.
Right, so that's my question is where do we make sure that under our subdivision regulations that this is being met?
So not so much in subdivision regulations, because what we have in our hand is what we have for the evaluation
Right,
of
no, but
this
that's what I mean, so where do we
application.
put those
I was
stipulations?
gonna get there.
Oh, okay.
More so in the conditioning of the application approval this evening.
Oh.
So much like the realtor's earlier point, by putting and formalizing any statements the commission is making into the minutes this evening, saying, you know, this subdivision is approved based on the following conditions.
Got
The
it.
fee in lieu is to be established by the commission. The drainage report is to be reviewed by the property owner. All of those conditions, bring them to light on the record, so that that becomes memorialized. There's a certificate that will get sent out in the event of an approval that has all this. And it part of the town records, part of my formal documentation. And as long as you retain me as your agent, I can oversee that that work gets done.
Got it, perfect.
Anyone else?
I just think Kim brought up a very good point. John Allen sort of reinforced it about the purchase of that one property and the driveway issue we talked about. I think to your point, something like that, as specific as that, needs to be ironed out, worked out. And you made a comment very early on about, we always lean toward more restrictive, right? So if we're gonna really dig into it, that would require a town engineer, somebody to look into it, as would be the water issues down below, I think that John brought up. Those are the things I think that are gonna cover us if we can get the detail we're looking for built into the minutes and whatnot to make it, required basically. And try to really eliminate those buyers coming in a year from now, 2 years, and then coming back with some sort of legal issue that we didn't, you know what I mean? The whole point for me, I guess, is to lean toward more restrictive. Get the work done by the engineer, really figure out some of these details. I think Keith, you did a very good job with it. You're hearing from the public, there's real concerns, and it's mostly around water. And we do need to protect ourselves that way, I think. We've been the recipient on the other side of that property over the years with water issues. It didn't affect me or you directly, but everybody below us was, banged up pretty bad. And we want to avoid that. So I guess the whole point would be, let's just think more restrictive, figure it out, bring in those pros we need to give us the data we need to really define what it has to be before we can green stamp it, and then let the buyers come in, and if they're okay with what we have on paper, they're still gonna have to come to us individually, with their own site plans and whatnot. But I think we can eliminate some of the pitfalls early on.
Looked like you had something.
No, I was just listening.
So
makes
I
sense.
guess, you're falling back where I was, and why I keep questioning it, because it seems awkward that to approve a subdivision, but then, we're sort of, I guess I would summarize it as, we're really kind of approving the idea of it and the lot, the proposed lots. But does that mean that we're tying it into these lot sizes as written in this paper? Can that change as well?
They'd have to come back as a complete re-subdivision.
Okay.
So any
then it'd be a
changes to the,
Subdivision, any change to a
any
division,
changes to the number of lots is going to be a re-subdivision,
Right.
and also the configuration of lots. So this recently came up with Aspen Hill. We saw a very preliminary,
That's what you're stuck.
this is what, and this is in the approval, you're citing this map.
okay,
So that there's no like 4 lots and 4 lots only, you're citing the exact dimensions of
right,
this
or a
map.
re-subdivision, correct?
Yeah, and in the event that they wanted to change it, it would be a re-subdivision. So,
Or somebody could just decide to buy the whole thing.
Or they might wanna buy 2 lots.
Yeah.
And then, some of the questions could go away. Or,
Or new ones.
Or new questions
new-
involved.
exactly.
Got it. Again, I'm still really, I agree with Greg on this. I'm still so confused on how we're accepting an idea, but yet putting
So-
stipulations on an idea.
You're acting as the planning commission. This
Okay.
is not a hat that you often wear. This is the hat that you wear when you adopted the POCD. You were acting very legislatively, with much more discretion than you act when you're the zoning commission. You have the luxury of being the combined commission, so you have to serve both functions. Your planning commission hat, you are very much, it's broad strokes idea, much more. I mean, you are looking at your subdivision regulations. You're not just arbitrarily saying it looks good. But you're acting in a different function.
Yeah.
It's not an analysis of an application in the same way as being the planning commission. Planning commissions work in a much more broad way. They're adopting, changing regulations and analyzing subdivisions.
Okay.
But part of it, I think that makes particularly complicated is that the issue, which is water, otherwise it seems straightforward. You
Yes.
know, in planning, you have to plan for it as well as the zoning where you have to enforce it, or you get more down in the weeds of checking every one of these boxes, I guess, but you know, so I think it's very important to
The
take.
way those regulations were written and a source of some of the confusion, it was very clear that it was not only for the subdivider, but the developer. So in this case, the subdivider is here before us. He is not necessarily the developer. So we're parsing apart what the subdivider is proposing and not what the developer is proposing. And we do have to revisit it when in the event, if there is a developer, to then re-review it under the purview of the regulations that prevail. And it might be the subdivision regulations again, and it very well be the zoning regulations.
Fred?
Yeah, my understanding, and following up on what Janelle is saying, is that under our zoning regulations and also our subdivision regulations, if, and this is very clear, if the applicant meets our regulations, then we have to look favorably on approval. And from what I'm seeing, that, and Janelle has elucidated this quite well, that it's really going to be incumbent on whoever's going to develop these lots to give us the actual engineering for the lots. It seems to me that the applicant has addressed all the issues that are under our regulations. And I'm just wondering if there's any other issues that are strictly zoning issues that are required by the applicant that would preclude us from moving forward on considering an approval. I think he's met the criteria that we set out in zoning. I think what Stephen was saying about an idea, this is not an idea. This is a concrete plan. It's a set of site plans. It's a concrete application. It's real, and it's what we're looking at. And if it meets our regulations, we have an obligation as a commission to look favorably on that application. So I think that's, it's important to focus on that aspect. And I think when the developer comes to us, that is definitely going to be the time that we can look at any kind of additional stipulations for drainage. Interestingly enough, we've worked on projects where we've incorporated the drainage, particularly on difficult sites, particularly where there's ledge, where we create drainage systems completely around the house and inside the house, so that we address a lot of these issues. So I think we're speculating, if we're looking to add additional considerations here, we have to deal with what's in front of us. And I think the commission has to determine if in fact the applicant has met the zoning regulations.
It's not zoning, it's the subdivision regs.
The subdivision, I'm sorry, yeah, subdivision regulations.
So can we put, can we accept it, but like the certain stipulations, like there's an 18% grade on one of the driveways, so that would have to be changed.
I would just say that in the event that building occurs, that all zoning regulations are satisfied.
Okay.
That should.
So we don't have to go through things
Hmm.
individually.
Yeah, so pursuant to the statutes, section 825, the subdivision of land, which governs the decision-making that we're taking. The applicant needs to demonstrate that the land to be subdivided is such a character that it can be used for building purposes without danger to health or public safety, that provisions have been made for water, sewage, drainage, and, if drainage due to each subdivision becomes undersized and creates the potential for flooding on a state highway and in areas contiguous to brooks, rivers, and or other bodies of water, proper provisions are made for protective flood control measures, and the proposed streets are in harmony with or principal thoroughfares shown in the plan of conservation and development. He's not proposing any streets, so we don't need to get into intersections. But essentially what he is providing for is that the lots that are being created can be used for building purposes without danger to health, public safety, and proper provisions have been made for water, sewage, and drainage.
He meets all of that.
So, yeah, no, definitely, something for discussion purpose only, I'm just gonna put it out there, is, our subdivision regulations very strongly revert back to the P O C D. Seeing that we have just done our P O C D, does anybody see any issues from any information that was in our P O C D to this application?
I don't see the issue. I think the idea of, preserving open space and preserving farmland are very important, and I do feel that at least there are two large enough lots on the property to preserve a look of that, so I do feel that it does even sort of meet the town's wants and desires based on how they see their community as well. So no, I think the larger lot size helps with that, so I know, I think it.
You think it kind of meets the
I think it
intent
kind
of
of
our-
does go into.
In relation to the
And-
P O C D.
And even 5 acre lots for smaller lots for
Yeah.
people who could afford a smaller thing, so I do actually think it meets both needs within our
Yeah.
P O C D.
In relation to the P O C D, in retrospect, I wish we had put something in there about BB Hill, and what Doug just said, you know, is further evidence that something needs to happen there.
Yeah, I think the P O C D was pretty good about resiliency and just bringing forward
Well, I
a
meant
little
the
bit,
specificity
yeah.
Of,
But I think thinking through what it talks about when it comes to stormwater management is helpful, because Glenn did spend some time on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
But then I honestly think that this could improve conditions, because otherwise they're just gonna stay the way they are.
yeah,
If they're not good now.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna disturb it. Yes, there's gonna be development and more impermeable, but the impermeable surface is negligible in that size lots. It's nothing.
no, I'm just talking,
No, I
Yeah.
understand, but I was just kind of,
Yeah.
I guess, supporting your resiliency. I think that we're actually have a chance to improve what is there, because right now it's not working. At least we get a shot to fix it maybe 4 times,
yeah,
to work on it, to better it. And some of what is in this report can't be fixed all from one lot.
No,
So I
absolutely.
think that's important to recognize it, but it can't be the end all, fix
Yeah.
all, but it's some, I think, work is going to be much better than current conditions.
No
So I have a
question.
question.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. So we had our workshop recently talking about what needs to be reevaluated in the regs and changed. And if this, or this subdivision, the drawing of lot lines were to be approved, are they then under the regulations as they stand right now, or after it's whatever stands right now?
Right now.
Okay,
You got
Yeah,
it.
that's what's
Absolutely. Great question.
I assume so, okay.
Anything further? Any other comments, thoughts?
Well, if there's no other
I'm not-
comment, excuse me,
I'm not really, go ahead, Fred.
I would make it a motion that we approve this subdivision with conditions. And I would like the commission, I would like Janelle to lay out the conditions. And I would like the commission to approve those conditions. And if there's anything else besides what Janelle has indicated, that should be also included in the approval.
So Fred, to be clear, you're talking about that list Janelle had just read recently, so I'll have her say it one more time if she's ready.
Not quite ready, but I can be ready. All
Okay.
right, so. That we will receive the list of abutters, copy of return receipts of mailings, soils report, and their notations on the map, Torrington Area Health Approval, and power of attorney authorizing Keith Bodwell to act as representative. And I'd just like to add as subsequent steps, that fee in lieu of open space shall be established by this commission, and no lot shall be transferred to a buyer before any of the required shared driveway agreements
good.
or before,
That's good.
like the improved driveway proposal comes before the commission, so that it's very obvious that, well, we have to be careful of wording, because no lot shall be, developed by a buyer before any of the required shared driveway is established, I think is better.
Could you
Design.
say the?
Yeah, so no lot shall be developed by a buyer before any of the required shared driveway agreements have been put into place. If it's a shared driveway, because there is that potential that they wouldn't be on a shared driveway.
And that can be a condition that will stay with it?
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
in response to the site plan, if it's a shared
Fantastic.
driveway, just to reiterate, it's in the regulations, but to reiterate, in the event that it is purchased by a buyer, they would be very, very aware that they have to come before the
Right.
commission.
Thank you.
Is there a second, or is that all, Janelle?
Unless any commissioner has
Is there a
anything to
second to that
add.
motion?
One, yeah, okay, just prior to that, I did want to add, is there anything else that any of the other commissioners would want to put as a condition, number one? And number two, what convinced me basically is that we have this opportunity to improve this property. And we have a couple of opportunities to improve this condition, I should say. So I think that's a very convincing factor, not only the fact that they're meeting the subdivision regulations, but Greg, I think Ruth made a second there, but I just wanted to see if there was any
No,
other.
you got it in before her. You beat her,
That's-
so you're okay.
So we have the word, you used the word buyer. So a developer puts up
Hold on,
houses there
hold on, we
on
do-
spec.
Now she seconded it and we're in discussion.
We're in discussion, yeah.
You know what so are we covered with what you said in that?
Well,
would say
so I, to coattail on that, my concern, I understand completely
Just
what
no
we want.
lot shall be developed, period.
I understand what, I totally agree, that's great. I struggle with somebody buying lot number 2 and being saddled with a whole design
Oh, you missed the caveat where the shared driveways are required. So lot 2 doesn't have a shared driveway.
Well, lot one, that little
lot
lot in the
one.
front, that little 5 acre
Is
lot.
it,
that
is
has
it the first,
beginning
the
of
one with single driveways, lot 1?
Yeah.
It goes 1, 2, 3, 4.
Lot 1, yeah,
So
you're right.
two-
So they have the
so
map.
somebody buys,
Tiny bit of shared driveway.
if somebody buys lot 2, now they're saddled with the cost of design of that driveway all the way to lot 4, the way that we have this worded, and I don't think that's the intent.
No.
No, we just have to pick better wording.
Yeah, so that,
Um,
that was part of what my issue
that right?
was there, yeah. And also somebody doing this on spec, which is very conceivable,
They're still owners.
yeah.
Lots number,
So could you read that one more time, Janelle, the way you have it? I'm sorry.
I haven't written it down, so
I
that was
didn't realize you
basically
were-
just off the cuff. Lots number 2 and 3 shall be developed, I don't know, I'm writing this out loud.
The driveway to service
Yeah,
those two parcels.
Yep, so hold on one sec. The shared driveway of lots 2 and number 3 shall not be developed until the commission has reviewed and approved in accordance with, and I'll state the regulation.
Is it just 2 and 3 or 2, 3, and 4? 2, 3, and 4 are on that same driveway?
2, 3, 4,
the same
driveway, yeah.
So how about number 3 and number 4? Shall not be developed until the commission has reviewed and approved in accordance with, and that is.
Can't believe you don't have that memorized. What's wrong with you?
Memorize too many. In accordance with, oh my gosh, 2.6 D 5. 2.6
Small town.
D 5, also known as shared access way standards, in the event that that gets changed. With the, great. And its associated drainage measures in accordance with 5.10, and in accordance with storm drainage 5.10 as amended, because that's what we're hoping we'll do soon.
One question to Greg's thing about this lot 2 idea. They're only going up that shared driveway such a short period.
20 feet.
Right, so is there something that we should?
Still a shared driveway.
Oh, cause I was wondering if there was some way that there was a development issue based on, okay.
No,
I mean,
the
is
way the regs are written,
No, that's fine, I
there's
just-
flexibility with adding on, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't be.
Right.
I
needed
guess that's
to
what you
design
get for
the whole
your
thing.
complicated shared driveway.
No, that's perfect. I just wanted to make
Well,
sure that
he
there was.
tried elsewise. He gave it a solid try elsewise, so.
Right.
So I understand our intent, but I see it as being an undue burden on the property owner. But is that part of our planning?
It's not in our purview.
What other way could you do it?
I know, that's what I'm struggling with.
No, I think we approve it based off of it.
Could you, I'm
being-
sorry, could you read that one more time?
Yep. Fees in lieu of open space to be established by the commission in the advance of any sale. The shared driveway of lots 2, 3, and 4 shall not be developed until the Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed and approved in accordance with 2.6 D5 shared access way standards, and in accordance with storm drainage standards 5.10 as amended.
The relevant portions.
I know where you're going, cause it's all the responsibility and cost.
All the
Is-
costs.
No, but then when you read, no, because then when you read the regulations, it says it's written in a very careful way, actually much better than the subdivision regulations, because it allows for future lots to be added to the driveway agreement. So if it's lot one, it's just making the property owner aware that you might one day also be the mouth of two other homes that are being accessed. It's not that they need to come up with all the engineering
The whole
or the
thing.
driveway all the way up. It's just an acknowledgement that that mouth into the roadway is going to be a shared responsibility of everyone. It's pretty straightforward when you look at the regulations and the way that they're written,
So
and it
here's
will be a
this
shared.
long driveway,
So when
and
does
I'm
the
just
drainage come
developing
into that?
the part that goes through my property. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, there's too many
Okay.
people talking at one time.
Is that what you're saying?
I
So
missed the
here's this
question.
driveway.
Yeah,
I'm building a house and I'm just doing the driveway as it relates to my house, no
Mhm.
further.
hmm
Wow, I've never
as
heard
it
of
relates
anything
to
like
your
that.
house and your stormwater management in satisfaction with this subdivision plan, based upon your impervious coverage and everything that you're doing.
So they would have to do nothing more until the next lot is
Next
sold.
plot, and yep,
Well, then how would we do any drainage approval on 20 feet of drive? That's where I'm getting confused on it. If this lot sells and they come in, put their driveway here and it goes to there, and we have drainage requirements for this part
it's.
without having
this lot's
drainage.
engineering, so if this lot is accessed through this shared driveway, all of this engineering is going to be figured out, but you can't belittle the fact that this is still a shared driveway.
Okay, I'm just, yeah,
So if someone comes in and buys lot three, let's say lot one and two sold, lot one's not a problem, where am I? Yeah,
Yeah.
lot one's not a problem,
Yeah.
lot two just does a 20-foot driveway. Somebody comes in and buys this lot, that's when the engineering all the way up through has to be approved.
right, no, I understand that, but then if we approve it for this lot, it might have to be changed again if we then look at this lot.
It's
That's what I'm
always,
confused
it
about.
will be amended the more that you're putting onto the lot naturally,
Okay,
yes.
so, but we do have a right to then change whatever stipulations we put here when we do here.
But it's still keeping in mind the comprehensive subdivision, so by changes, it's just adding
Okay,
the additional access way that isn't even going to be it will be a moot point for this person because they won't enter there or
Okay.
need to enter there, but they are granting them access. And it needs to be known and documented, whether it's this person or this person or this person that buys the lot first, like whoever's first still needs to establish on that deeded access that there are potential for other lots.
okay.
And in the event that they don't like that and they change the configuration, that's when we may see a re-subdivision.
No, you're right. I just was wondering about the drainage issue. If we put it, if the one driveway goes to there, how do we then change drainage
They will
later?
be responsible for their
Their
drainage
spot.
management, their stormwater management of their lot.
Got it. Okay.
So
Got it.
basically, if lot number 4 buys first, they're responsible for the whole driveway
Yes.
engineering.
I mean, whoever buys lot 4 is gonna have
That,
a,
that completely changes it, because I just didn't want to get saddled
Mhm.
you know.
We say God bless them.
And then that would run with the deed.
I just wanna make
for
sure
that
we have a
property.
way to
Yeah.
control that for that first
Who's
person.
gonna wanna
Yeah.
buy that?
So I mean, just looking out for
Shared
the
driveway's
property
not
owner, I
gonna-
realize it might be a little bit exhausting to listen to this.
Mm.
So we have a
Welcome to our
motion.
life. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there further discussion on this? Would anybody like to hear that motion roughly again? I can't ask Alice.
can't ask me.
So we're pretty good. Do we know what we're adding on there for stipulations? Is, before we vote, I would just ask if anybody thinks they have another stipulation they would like to add.
I'd say conditions, not stipulations.
Yeah,
Condition.
conditions.
Did you hear stipulation? Cause I kept saying conditions.
We're not attorneys.
And just to make sure that the fee gets decided at our next, or put on the agenda for our next meeting.
Duly noted.
Right. No, I,
Excellent. I don't think there's any more discussion. Special permit, so we have to vote, individually.
Individually, yeah.
So Fred,
So just for the
I-
record, it's a 2/3 vote for a subdivision approval. As required.
duly noted. Mark?
He's
Yes,
not seated all.
Oh, you're not seated.
We didn't seat him for Vince.
Oh,
Seat him.
Thanks for bringing.
I'm sitting right here. You can seat me if you like.
Hey, seated.
well, Mark, that was,
Erase
yeah, I
the
don't know what to do
record.
with it.
We have a quorum without.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mark, it was
Well,
my
without
rookie
me.
mistake. I should have seated you.
You can vote.
But we'd like to know what you would say.
I have nothing to say if I'm not seated
All
officially.
right,
I'm seated just
Fair.
as an amateur. That's the hell with it.
It's great.
Fair enough.
Mark.
good on you. Stephen,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Aye.
Ruth, Greg is an aye,
Passes unanimous.
unanimous.
That's 2 ayes.
Boy, we really beat that one.
Maybe a little painful,
We
but
really
unanimous.
beat that horse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being so thorough so that we could really understand what we were trying to do.
It's a nice,
No
little-
That's really, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this or approve any of it.
I apologize for the rigmarole with the other boards and commissions. Which I have no role, clearly.
but that's what makes us special. Moving on,
Bye, guys. Have a great night.
we only have 8 more hours.
Can we send over some food?
Yeah, please.
Old business, item A, Village Center parking plan. And then it says / sidewalk standards, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so very
need,
quick, this is very quick. It's just come to my attention, 2 different property owners wanted to do things in the Main Street Center area, Village Center, with their sidewalks, and I just think in the past, things have occurred, and it should be noted on the record that sidewalks are a part of the public right of way, and that it's town's property, and that the sidewalks, it's just not for private property owners to sort of extend their front yard otherwise.
Is that what the proposal was?
Well, there was an ask to move a sidewalk and there was a past approval by not this board to do things with the public right of way. So I think we
not by
should
any
just,
board.
not by any board, by an individual. I think we should just establish the standard that the public right of way is the purview of the town and that we will keep our sidewalks intact to the best of our ability. And kind of keep that as our pro forma act. And you have something to add?
No, I had a question. Is there then standards if it's a public right of way with a sidewalk? Is there a standard that needs to be
I-
followed?
I think that there are standards in the regulations.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but there's,
when we got the grant for the new sidewalks, there was very big arguments about that.
There's-
Because there had to be for handicapped, and some of the people who live here wanted the sidewalks to be
4 feet, not 5 feet.
right.
5
Yeah.
feet is industrial, 4 feet's quaint.
I
Yeah.
think there's still some confusion around sidewalks and maintenance and sweeping and plowing that I don't really want to spend any time on tonight, but I do want to establish the standard of this commission is that it's a town right of way, it's a sidewalk, you, as a private property owner, don't own it, therefore you do not have a right to move it, to remove it and plant bushes in lieu of or otherwise.
Yeah.
Just because it gets us into a lot of inconsistencies and trouble, because now this property owner has the expectation they can change the sidewalk. So I just needed to bring that to light, and the current first selectman really said that he would look to the P and Z to establish a standard because there wasn't a standard established. There was sort of this word of mouth, you can do this because you don't like your sidewalk. So,
So the standard currently reads, any development located in the village business zoning district shall include new or reconstructed, did you already read this?
nope,
Oh,
thank you.
Thank God, because I thought you didn't. Or reconstructed sidewalks at least 4 feet in width along the street frontage or frontages of the parcel or parcels, unless the commission determines that sidewalks are either impractical or unnecessary at that location, considering prospective pedestrian traffic. That standard is really not a standard, and it's not even written well,
No.
in my opinion.
Well, I was
And I
even
think
wondering if
the
there was a state
purpose-
standard that would supersede our
Well,
regs. I didn't
it gets, no, but it gets
No.
more complicated. So the purpose is intended to encourage the establishment and maintenance of sidewalks in appropriate areas in the community. But even that in and of itself doesn't mean anything because who?
Yeah, who? Exactly, yeah. So
So is this particular agenda item asking for us to rewrite this
probably.
at this meeting?
No,
or
no,
put it on a-
No, no, no,
next
I just
agenda?
wanted to, I just wanted, before, I never wanna unilaterally. Cause the first selectman approached me because he had received an email and I had received an email. Asking if they could move their sidewalk, and rather than unilaterally say, no, that's town property. I do bring these things to light before this commission because I am acting on all of yours behalf. I am not acting as my own authority. I'm giving the authority through you. So rather than unilaterally say, no, that's town property, I figured I would bring it to you just to make you aware that there has been a willy-nilly approach to property owners approaching the town, asking what they can do with their sidewalks. And I'd like, for the sake of the town, just to have a uniform standard. It's town property, please don't change it,
What are they trying to do?
move it.
Like, what do you
Remove
mean
it,
move
move it,
Get rid of it?
relocate
We're probably moving
it.
it forward so they get a little more yard if they move it
I
out.
don't think, I mean, I think it's a moot point, how
Oh,
much they
okay.
wanna move it, I just think like as a concept. I would just like to establish as concept, if this commission has a particular stance on.
You can't move town property.
Yeah, if it's part of the
That's all
public
that's
way.
all I just needed to
It's
just,
part of the
but I
public.
bring this out because I can't make these decisions myself, because. That is not my role. And. I always like the backing of this commission. When a decision or a standard gets established.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a public right away. It's
Saying.
town property. So no, definitely. Thank you for saying no.
I'm gonna.
I haven't
be-
said
I'm
no,
gonna-
I
Oh,
I'm
brought
gonna
it
be
to
the
the
horse's ass.
commission.
Oh, then we should say
What gives
no.
what gives you the right to say that in our regulations?
Well, the fact that
Well,
it's town owned
town-owned land.
property.
It's not
So it's
not
the
their
town's
property. So
right to
those-
decide what they wanna do with their
Those
property.
regs aren't.
Just
good.
like if someone else wanted to move something on your property, it would not be their right to go ahead and do that.
Read the sidewalk standard, like where does it say that?
He's just
You know what I mean?
creating trouble.
No,
That's
well,
what
He's
because
just
we,
making
well, we
long
should,
meetings
no, because,
longer.
no, because if you don't talk like this, then they can come back to the town and get us in trouble, so we have to have this
Well,
conversation.
so, but we do have to have this conversation, but I do think if anyone were to pull a survey. That it's very clear the town has a right of way.
But we can only, we're being asked by the first selectman to weigh in on this, but our standard is horrible, so how do we?
We amend our.
If I was a
standard.
property
Well, no,
owner,
actually-
I'd come back at you for it, and that's
And-
why
and-
it's worth.
No, they can't, because they don't own that property. That's, it's not their property, it's
It
town
says they can
property.
develop it as long as it's 4 feet wide and it's on the street frontage.
But it's not their property to
yeah.
develop.
But it's encouraging it in our
Okay.
standard.
I don't
I see,
see that.
I mean, I
it's-
see the
it's not
loophole,
their
I
property.
see
I
the,
mean, I don't see how you.
I think that when they wrote this, maybe they're looking for free sidewalks. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm not shocked.
Honestly, that's
I'm
kind
not
of how it's
shocked.
written.
I'm not at all shocked.
I mean,
And I agree that we need to have.
No, I agree, but if it is a sidewalk stipulation, then they can say, I'm gonna make it 4 feet wide and I'm gonna do it as part of your
I
stipulation.
think,
But if it's not their property, how
I-
can they develop it?
I think for now it's safe to
I don't
say.
disagree with that, but if you.
No,
read
I.
it-
It would almost be better if the sidewalk thing wasn't even there
Right,
at
Yeah,
all.
perfect.
And then you
Agreed.
could say it's town property, you can't touch it.
I think it's just safe to say, like, it is the town's property.
And we have a say on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we get rid of this weird.
So, yeah,
5.5.
so why don't we just put asterisk next to sidewalks to remove from the regulations, because it's,
Or. fix
or
it.
to
We either fix
fix
it or.
the
get
wording.
that.
Yeah, remove 5.5.
We ran into this. I can't think of his name now. He doesn't live here
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
He had a
No.
business with a tree that was a town, right across the street, a town tree
Mike?
that was,
Mike Camino?
yeah, that's who it
Oh,
was.
I know him.
Okay, anyway, so, you know, the size of the tree or what, I don't, it was an issue. And it was impacting his property. We had a whole go round about
Of
this.
course,
So-
there's a lots of goes around in this
Yeah,
town.
so I, you know, I don't, do we want? I'm just concerned that another iteration of this could happen, because I can't imagine somebody asking permission to change the sidewalk.
So verbatim in the email, it just reads, I hope this finds you well. I live at 92 Main Street and I have a question about the walkway in front of the house. A number of years ago, I worked with the town to remove the old town sidewalk from in front of our house so that we could put down a new walk. So they are getting free sidewalks. The town was no longer maintaining the old asphalt sidewalk on our side of the street, so it was in bad condition, crumbling, being pushed up by roots, etc. While the town took up the old sidewalk, we paid for regrading and putting down the new walk. We had a written agreement that the town put together, and I wanted to see if there was anything that would preclude us from moving the sidewalk again. We are exploring some landscaping and our landscaper wants to move the walk closer to the house. Before we consider anything, I wanted to check with you to make sure that wasn't a problem. Thanks.
Well, it's great that they're checking in. It
I'm
seems like
very
they're-
glad. I asked to see the written approval and I have never seen these written approvals. This is not the first I've heard of a agreement between a property owner and
I
a
don't think that-
sidewalk.
Matt has
Honestly,
something.
I don't think that exists.
I mean, there's sidewalk on either side of their house. Is, what are you?
Was a sidewalk to nowhere? I don't know what it leads into. That's a great question though, right?
Yeah, does it lead
Yeah.
to the other part of the sidewalk?
I
or
don't
does it
remember the
not?
town
And
ever
what you
I'll
gotta
have to
do.
go
going
in.
into agreement. I don't remember the
We could do a
town.
sidewalk
Doesn't
that's right up
seem-
the street.
No, but it doesn't seem safe. I don't think we need to
No,
entertain it to that point.
No, I think they can't do it, period.
But that sort of made it sound like they put the sidewalk in, not the town.
They
They
put the sidewalk.
did, but I think, as I wrote back to them and I CC'd our first selectman, I just said, it sounds like it may be time to formalize the town's approach to property within the public-private realm, because it really is that public-private, because if I'm walking on this sidewalk, I'm assuming I'm in the public space, and if I walk on this
Yeah.
sidewalk and they've moved it and suddenly they're like, get out of my yard, that would be disappointing and also misleading.
No,
So.
I
That
like
could be
Matt.
a
Sidewalk to nowhere.
turnpike through Falls Village,
So-
pay a toll on each side of their yard.
All right, so we'll move on,
Yeah, but simply
Bergen
put,
County.
but let's make a footnote to
yeah,
Across the
Yeah.
bridge. and-
deal with that and every
Okay.
other one.
yeah, so, yeah, carry on.
Item number B, Subcommittee on P and Z Membership. Anything to report?
Yes,
There's an April 1 meeting.
we are not gonna have the April 1 meeting. I emailed you. We're gonna cancel it and hopefully have something to do in May.
Okay,
But I do have a couple different one sheets I wanted to pass around to the members, and the members who aren't here, I will email. But I kind of wanted you guys to do a little bit of homework and go over some of these one sheets and if you feel that this information is appropriate and if we wanted to include it as part of the packet, so.
and I am in my email now and I do not have that email from you.
Oh, okay. I did this afternoon. I will do it again. And then you can just take these ones are for the zoning, and then. Yeah, these are all the zoning ones, there's two together, and then these are all the planning ones. And also, we're considering using the Ziska book as part of the packet for everybody. Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm missing something.
Oh, maybe.
I think it's coming from two different
Wait a
directions.
minute.
Sorry.
No.
So there's two sheets for the planning and two sheets for
Yeah,
the.
two sheets planning, two sheets zoning, and Janelle did a one sheet. And I just sort of wanted, that's just a one sheet, so
That's
you
just
have it.
Okay, okay.
I made a bunch because I didn't know you
Yeah.
were gonna be here.
You must have them.
So in total, I should have 3 sheets? or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three sheets.
Okay.
Three sheets.
Got it.
So,
We wish.
sorry, guys. So I just would love people to look over these, we've looked over this stuff as a subcommittee, but I just felt that it was important for the entire commission to be on board with what we were putting together. So, just take a peek at these at home, and then at our next meeting, I'd love you to have any words or thoughts on it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to CEO report.
One item I do want to add to the agenda, since it's a regular meeting, was the discussion on that we were doing the workshop meetings, and it was brought to my attention that not only our chair, but also Greg would be absent for the next scheduled workshop. So in that case, it sounds like Wednesday, the 10th is not going to be a good day, so it sounds like April is the month for canceling subcommittee meetings and the like. So just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that we should probably go ahead and cancel that.
Okay, so what?
Can
what
we
when
move it and
schedule?
make it a special meeting, or is that worth it, or?
We could, depending on when the proposal to move it is.
Or do we just wanna move it to the next month? I'm just
Next
bringing up
meeting.
this.
Next meeting,
Yeah.
April meeting.
I'm open to that.
Let's try to put on our regular meeting, and
Yeah.
if we,
Great,
knowing that we might have to
Great.
go to another
great,
workshop.
no, that'd be
Great.
great, let's put it as our next meeting agenda.
And just,
Between that and the fee structure. it should
yeah,
only
so
be 4.
we have a lot of reg review items to discuss at our next meeting. Right now I have home business that we've been working on. We're revisiting business residential, I do believe, and now we need to discuss our potential fee and lieu structure. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
Did you guys look at Alice's email about the cottage industry, cottage food?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
So there's some great links in there, and I printed this out. It's worth a read if you're interested.
everyone's doing all their homework.
It's just a ton of stuff. And Alice did the whole, go through it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of information that's very valuable to us, I think.
Yeah,
So that should come up at our next. When we,
Yeah.
and
And
then-
this
because
Cottage
we're
food.
gonna come back to cottage food.
yeah,
right?
it's on there
That
now.
comes off a state site, so it sort of gives you a little bit of the statutes that.
Can you share that with us
For the next
electronically?
meeting?
Alice
Oh, yeah.
has.
Oh, that's the one that Alice.
No,
did?
that's email.
There's a link in that email.
No one reads them,
Oh,
huh?
no, I read the email, but
I read the email, I didn't read the link.
Here's the email. You
Great,
can take this if you want.
No, I have the email.
great,
I just didn't ever.
Yeah, it's good information.
awesome.
They do get
That's-
lengthy.
That's added, cool. Okay, sorry, zoning report. I have copies. Does everyone have copies? Everybody seems to.
I have a large size one.
Yeah, Bryn, did you want one?
Yeah.
You have
We
one?
got 'em.
You guys got them? Okay. Matt,
I got one, thank you.
wow, everybody's so prepared.
Killing it.
I know, everyone with their homework and all. If anyone has questions, I know it's getting late in the evening. We've had a lot of permits being issued. It's the season. Spring is always that time. People are getting back outside and thinking about what they want to do. 40 Music Mountain Road was a very nice CO, very easy to manage. Even after the winter, that site is completely established. A lot of zoning inquiries, so just a lot of people, just prospective questions coming through. Potential for some home businesses, potential for subdivision. There's some discontinuation of road questions, which are always very legally dense and quite interesting. And then this 92 Main Street question about removing and replacing sidewalk is also on the report. I did receive just some concerns about the drainage. Selectman Kinsella mentioned that someone would be reaching out. I don't know if they've successfully done so. We're pretty hard to miss, so hopefully they voice their concerns. There were some concerns from applicants regarding the ZBA process. I had 2 applicants come to me very disappointed about the meetings, the understanding of the ZBA's responsibility when it comes to their decision-making. So I just aired those concerns because most of those applicants came back with applications that can comply with zoning regulations. And then there were some applicant concerns regarding the IWCC agenda, which has been addressed. Basically, the applicant that was here this evening, Bodwell, it was brought to the attention by his realtor that he was on an agenda, and he kind of had a freak out moment, not knowing if he needed to be heard at the meeting. And then DOT brought to my attention, I have some contacts that I work with in various towns, there was an encroachment concern. An illegal driveway was put in on Route 7 near Under Mountain Road. It's quite substantial. And because it outlets onto a state road, DOT needs an encroachment permit. So I've made contact with that property owner. They've really substantially disturbed that area, and I actually want to refer them over to the Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission because the area could have potential wetlands, but
Did you get
we're
anything
handling that.
about it to begin with?
Yeah, my folks at DOT contacted me.
Oh, I didn't know if the person who did the driveway ever, no.
Nope, the
That's-
They
field,
never
the,
reset anybody.
Got
no,
it.
the field supervisor at DOT and I are pretty close, so he
That's
called me,
crazy.
yeah. So BB Hill subdivision, just, good to know. They came back to us with the 3 driveways because CBA denied it, and then Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission, just, an email was exchanged because I was concerned that our applicant was not on their agenda, and I was also trying to better understand what the whole Conservation Commission role played, because it was never memorialized in any of town documents, so really happy that I have the minutes from Susan. And then OPM, they did come up with training guidelines. I wanted to give everybody a copy. I think, has everyone received one of these? It's pretty dense, but it covers everything. So this is kind of what we'll be holding to. Most members have achieved their training and let me know about it.
I never,
You didn't let me know. No, you did not,
trained.
of course, but this is helpful. And there's anyone, it got it. Everybody got one? So that's from OPM. Great. Take it home, homework to read. I gave it to the subcommittee.
Got it, that's why I saw it, sorry.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And that concludes my report unless anyone has questions or concerns.
Yelping Hill and Music Mountain intersection.
Yeah, so Attorney Riska reached out and I actually run there, so I'm very familiar with that outlet. So where it actually goes all the way to Cornwall, up and over Cream Hill through Yelping Hill, and it outlets onto Music Mountain. It's one of my favorite running routes. It was a discontinued road years ago. I want to say in the 70s. So right now, the attorney was trying to review the documents to see in the event that it gets formally discontinued or abandoned, it's different. If it's discontinued by the town still retains the right to pass and bypass. And if it's actually, so that's discontinued. And if it's abandoned, it basically means that road no longer exists and it goes to all the abutters. So the attorney is reviewing officially what happened on the record. It would have been a memorandum between the town of Cornwall and the town of Falls Village. And he does believe that it was in fact abandoned. So it would have gone to the abutters and there's no right to pass or repass. So it's actually the abutters' right. And there's just some access negotiations being made between 2 property owners at this time.
So there really should be no action needed by this.
By this commission, no, but it would be a lot line modification if they want to grant
To
access
take
to the other party. Yeah, so just a precursor because it's a pretty complex. It would be a complex background as to why a lot line modification would
Is
need
it
to
like
happen.
50 feet?
Yeah,
swath?
yeah.
Do we have any roads that we've abandoned?
I'd have to see a road map, but every,
Deer Road.
yeah,
Deer
every
Road, yeah.
town has,
What is Barrack Road?
It's open.
It's an open road,
It's
it's not,
open.
it's not an abandoned road. no.
Yeah,
It's a
lower-
working road.
there's been activity back there too.
There's one off of Music Mountain that cuts also over to Cornwall, but it's private owned in
Where?
between, but it's.
That's probably the Yelping Hill one.
No, that is the
Yeah.
Yelping Hill. And
So
you
that's
used to
very
send people
confusing
that road to get to
because
the house, and it
What's
was
his
horrible.
name? Family owned it, so it must be they're trying to figure out. if
They are.
can-
Yeah,
So say it one more time.
So there was a
the
stop sign
difference.
put on there, or do not,
Yeah,
no
do not
trespassing?
enter, yeah.
No trespassing.
Road closed, yeah, yeah.
So
Both sides.
explain one more
that's
time.
new.
No, that was probably a couple months ago.
Yeah,
And
They
I
saw me
was
running.
told that it was because they were trying to make it a private road.
Mhm.
And I'm with you because that is a
You
great
bike it.
road. for
Yeah, for
in
biking
Cornwall,
on, yeah, totally.
Don't
And,
hit me though.
oh, I would never.
Party.
Plenty of space for everybody on that road. But
Great road.
at first, I was under the assumption that road closed sign was put there because they had some trees down and a couple good washouts. But then I cannot remember who, but it was told that it wasn't because of that, that it had been put out there by certain people to stop people from coming down that road. But I've always growing up there have known that you can go through there.
Yeah, yeah.
Say one more time the difference between discontinued and abandoned.
So discontinued is basically the town is just like, we're not gonna maintain it, but we're gonna retain the public right of way and the right to pass and repass is the language that gets used legally. So they still own that right of way. And then when it's abandoned, the town is basically saying no more
Doesn't
ownership
exist, yeah.
goes out to those abutters.
Okay.
Can you, I'm sorry.
No.
Can you explain the abutters thing? What is
Yeah, so
I'm just
like
not-
if you owned,
land going to that?
yeah,
That it could go to them?
yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I think is happening here, is that
Yes.
they're sort of trying to reclaim. And that's why the attorney was looking, because oftentimes this didn't happen legally. It was just sort of a town had a meeting and they were like, we're not gonna maintain this road anymore, but then it was never formally filed. So that's probably why they're revisiting it too.
I
But I can
felt,
keep you posted, because I still trespass back there.
I do
Trust,
too.
whether it's trespassing or not, I'm not
you are,
I
you are.
being recorded.
So, is when I was a selectman, I went up there and met the actual property owner, and I thought I was under the assumption they owned both sides. And he put the no trespassing because the insurance company wanted it, but he's like, you can still come through here. So the stops or the no, that's new, well, you said the last few months.
I can't remember because it was while I was on, yeah, because I cut through there every now and again. Cause
It's great.
sometimes it's nice to have a change of scenery coming home and that's a great road
Yeah,
to.
Yeah, it's a
to
good
cruise
one.
on.
It's a one.
Are we
Yeah, it's a
talking
beautiful
about
area.
the dirt road that goes from Music Mountain Road to Cream Hill Road?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that was the road, yeah, I've driven that road many times.
It's a beautiful spot.
Always used to bring all my
Right.
kids to my house
Well,
that way.
I mean, since
All the
it's
time.
such a point of interest, I'll do some research, because now I'm curious what was officially declared, if ever.
Public comment, public, hello? Nobody out there? Any, Fred, did you have any official correspondence or?
No,
Janelle?
no, I don't, but I did want to commend the commission on their thorough examination and of the approval of this subdivision tonight. I thought it was very well done, very efficient and very thoughtful. And I want to commend the members of the commission for carrying through their responsibility, doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business to come before the commission? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, great.
Greg. Because that's what he does in Steven's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Was that a no, Mark?
No, mine, although you don't need mine, really.
Sorry, Mark. you-
That was a big oversight. I apologize.
Hmm,
Thank you all. See you in a month if I decide to come back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stop recording quick.
Yeah.